anytime you see a movie that will be someone's favorite movie in the world. Mm-hmm. You know, like any movie that's ever came out, it's someone's number one.
Yeah. Someone has seen Venom and is their favorite movie. I actually know someone who is a former coworker whose favorite movie is Venom.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it's...
At least their favorite Marvel movie. I know for sure.
Their favorite Marvel movie is Venom.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to run into the guy that's like, you know what? I absolutely enjoyed Morbius. I can't believe that.
Haven't met them yet.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that day.
The guy whose favorite movie was Venom, he talked to me about Morbius, and he said, yeah, it wasn't that good. So when that guy said Morbius isn't that good, then it means something.
Yes, exactly. That's when you're like, if it's, I knew a kooky guy, and if he called someone kooky, I was like, that person's fucking kooky.
Mm-hmm. It's like when the clinically insane person says, you're crazy.
Yeah, they sober up for a minute, and they're like, man, you're nuts.
Reality exists for them for a split second.
Yep.
All right, I guess I can intro.
All right.
Because it's so much fun, Jan. Get it.
Okay, let's think. Jan Goodall. So it's a director that does nature documentaries. Antlers Holst.
No. Do you want me to... I'll do another part of it.
Okay. All right.
So the person asks, why do you include so much gratuitous violence in your movies?
Oh.
Because it's so much fun, Jan. Get it.
Tarantino.
Yep.
See, I think I've seen that quote.
Yeah. If you don't know what we're talking about, look up Quentin Tarantino because it's so much fun. That video is he's like giving an interview about violence in his movies and why his films are so gratuitous with the violence, and he just is honest. He says because they're so much fun. They're awesome. People like seeing it. I like making it. So
why stop? Why not?
I'm true to myself. So yeah, welcome to the Neon Crew podcast. My name's Kyle,
and I'm Mac.
So yeah, we've got some stuff to talk about. We've got some things, but
yes,
a bit of movie news first.
Oh,
I want to get your thoughts on this.
Okay.
So there's some racist people out there.
Shocker.
I know, right? And they have a problem with the Little Mermaid live action trailer because Ariel is black instead of white.
Oh no!
Yeah,
that's what's causing uproar.
Well, it's been an uproar, I guess, because when they announced it like 2 years ago, they announced that Ariel was going to be played by a black actress, and people already were like, "No, we can't have that. Ariel's supposed to be white. She was white in the cartoon."
Drop a purity line. Just let me hear you drop a purity line, and just go back to 40s Aryan race.
Oh my god! And what's dumb is that like people already like have written it off because of like their perception of like what it's gonna be like. Oh, because it's played by a black actress, it's gonna be bad. Like that's
right.
It's so narrow-minded thinking, and it's like I don't know. Have you seen the trailer for it at all? Like, because they recently released it.
No, it popped up on the Facebook stuff, and there's a couple. I'm not racist. I have no interest in seeing this. So I think it's kind of like when they started doing all the live action stuff. I pretty much just wrote all of it off.
Yeah, and that's exactly my thinking too. It's like I'm not super invested in it because it's a live action Disney remake.
Right.
You know, it has nothing to do with like the actress or anything. And like honestly, she seemed like the best part of what the trailer offered.
Yeah.
The trailer wasn't very good, I will say that, but her singing and her appearance and like her demeanor as Ariel seemed, from what I saw, pretty accurate. So
that's cool. I mean, that's good. I'm not. I could care less. I'll just say that.
What's weird is that like the trailer is it's all set underwater, and it's super dark. Like visually, everything's like very dimly lit, and I could barely see anything. And I made sure to watch 2 different versions of the trailer, like on different YouTube channels, just to make sure like one of them wasn't fucked up. And no, that's just how the trailer is. So does that mean that's how the whole movie's going to be? Like it's just really dark and hard to see everything?
Could be.
Like
or they just picked one of the shots, and it could be one of the, we live in such a weird world where like in the trailers, they try to hide things, but in the 90s you could do that. because social media wasn't around, so there would be a lot of rumors. And then when the trailer got released, whatever probably big rumor was going around was the big reveal in the trailer. That was the hook.
Yeah.
And I think from what I still see is that they still do that. But like we have social media now. So I see people will, I'm trying to think, there was an example I knew not too long ago where they were guessing, the Spider-Man stuff. Everyone rumored that, Maguire and Garfield were going to be in it. And I just pretty much went like, well, this has caught enough fire that it's happening. And then they did it in the trailer. Like they kind of, made the big reveal. And like everyone went nuts. It's like, how do you not accept it? Like it just, how do you not see it? And then be like, it's really here. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Like imagine the reaction that people would have had if like they didn't announce at all that Ariel was going to be black. Like they just revealed it in the trailer. Like,
and imagine the trailer that you saw with it being dimly lit, not being able to make out the character that you're seeing, and then seeing that. You
can make out the character okay. It's just like the rest of the trailer I thought was it's just super weirdly dark. And I think that's mostly because it's Disney trying to hide the fact that like so much of it is CG. Like obviously you can get away with doing a lot more CG if the environment is dark and you can hide a lot more things.
You can play into it too. I mean, they're in the depths of the water, so I mean, if they're trying to make it kind of more of a true depiction, like I think it wouldn't be well lit.
Kind of like what they attempted for The Lion King,
I guess,
as like trying to make it more of like, we're trying to make it look like a documentary, even though it's a tale about lions and Hamlet, basically.
Like we're actually like in the water with Ariel. Instead of it just being like, why don't you just make it really vibrant and fun?
Yeah, exactly.
Like what Disney does.
There's a whole quote from Jon Favreau, who directed the Lion King remake, about how the skies in the original movie he thought were way too beautiful to be real life skies, so they purposefully made the skies in the Lion King remake not as grand and not as beautiful to like make it realistic, which is the dumbest fucking thing because it's a movie. Like, wouldn't you want things to look nice? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I always thought that quote was so dumb.
There's people, it's art, that's art. You take creative endeavors.
Yeah, he took a creative nosedive. Fuck. We should talk about the Lion King remake one of these days. I feel like compare it to the original. I think that'd probably be a fun one. I think that would be a fun one.
That would be a fun one.
Just it'd be mostly just shitting on the remake, but
yeah. And I'll save it. I've seen it once. It was kind of a big. I don't get swept up into things, and sometimes when I do, in the moment, I'm like, oh, that is so much grander. And then, after you let it marinate, it's gone. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, I don't remember anything about it. I just remember being super excited when I was seeing it.
A lot of those in the moment feelings that might not carry over on a second watch.
I think people kind of, and I've gotten away from it as the older I've gotten, but that came out 2-3 years ago. So, I mean, I think at the time, like, people were making a big hoopla about it. So I was like, oh yeah, I think I will like this.
Yeah, right. People were telling you that it was awesome, and so you're like, I think it's gonna be awesome too.
Yeah, I want to be part of that crowd.
I think a lot of it too was like the nostalgia that people would get from watching the trailer for the remake, because they use a lot of the same music. I mean, it's a lot of the same characters, a lot of the same beats. Like, dude, there's Pride Rock, like that sort of thing.
Like, growing up, we had so many different movies that we watched that were way above our grade level. So, like, I'd get more nostalgia if they made a Silver Bullet remake. I would watch that and like have goosebumps if they did it well, because they did what is that movie called? It's something about vampires. Oh, I can't remember the name.
Twilight?
No, it's something Friday.
Freaky Friday?
No, that's what keeps coming to my head, but it's
Jamie Lee Curtis is a vampire.
I'll have to look it up. But we used to watch the original of it, and then they had the remake come out not too long ago, and I can see the cover of it. It's about this guy that was dating this dude's mom, and it was an 80s film. And the guy was a vampire. And
is it just called Friday Night?
Friday. Yeah, maybe that's what it's something like that. Is there a poster of it?
Well, there's a 1985 movie, and then there's a 2011 movie.
Friday. What is it called?
Friday Night.
What's the description on the plot?
A teenager discovers that the newcomer in his neighborhood is a vampire.
Yeah. Friday Night. That's what it was called. And it was like, we watched that when I was 8 or 9.
Oh.
And, it was, if there was boobs, we had to turn our eyes away. But other than that, we got to watch everything. So
your father's rule, as long as there's no boobs, then you can watch it.
Well, even if it was only that scene, we just have to look away. So, like that would be something like that it kind of fell into that vein. But then, when they make these horror remakes now, there was so much teen angst in the 80s and rebellion against parents and a lot of the kind of the coming of age stories or, like
kind of like a little bit of Caddyshack, American Pie kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but you throw them into like
weird science,
horror films, really just kind of these really outlandish creative. And then they do these remakes now, and they take all of that, the vibe away.
Yeah.
So they go like, hey, like let's do Friday Night again. Is that what it's really called? Friday Night?
That's what I found.
Fright Night.
Fright Night?
I think it's called Fright Night.
Did I misread it? Am I illiterate?
I could have said it too. I think it's called Fright Night.
It definitely is Fright Night. I definitely just misread it.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. Because I was saying,
I'm just a dyslexic piece of shit.
Wow. I'm sitting here talking about the thing. I can't remember it, but yeah. Then you'd see they come out with Fright Night. It's like, hey, like let's actually have it where instead of him kind of becoming a man, he already is a man, and he just kills the vampire, and everyone's like, yeah, we'll make it more actiony and scary. And then you just take away a lot of what made Fright Night good. I haven't seen the remake, so it could be my favorite film. I don't know.
That's what a lot of remakes I feel like have been doing. They've just been missing the point of the original.
Yeah, 100%. They for some reason they're like, hey, we'll make it better.
Yeah,
and then by making it better, we'll just take out all the substance.
For Jon Favreau, his version of better was to make it more quote unquote realistic and to get away from like the 2D cartoonish aspect of it.
Yep.
Because if you listen to interviews and like watch him talk about it, he's very dismissive and almost like kind of disrespectful of like 2D animation as a form,
I could see that. I think some people, it's like, what do you, dude, you're doing the same thing. You're just making it 3D.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, it's like 3D doesn't always mean better.
No. I'm laughing because he's like snot. It's like,
yeah.
It'd be like if Tarantino was like, we're actually gonna get lions and put them in with people. Like that would be me going like, oh, that's a guy that appreciates this and really does hate using technology. Like 2Ds and 3Ds, just different forms of technology that you're using to create the image.
Yeah.
So I mean, you could probably make it simpler maybe with 2D. Like I guess it still takes a lot of attention to detail, and then 3D, all you're doing is, I don't know. That sounds really dumb. It's like a guy that's like a football guy that just goes, ugh, you're running that.
Yeah. It's kind of like the David Lynch thing, like, these kids,
Yeah. So, yeah. Great, John. Thanks,
John.
Yeah.
Speaking of John, John is a name for like a customer of prostitutes, right?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, if you're Johnny.
And speaking of that sort of thing, we watched
that sort of thing
Last Night in Soho.
Woo!
We're going to talk about that. So did you want to describe this?
Oh, you want Neon Demon,
and
don't
then
you?
I'll get Neon
All
Demon.
Right. Yeah. We'll take this one.
Okay.
Yep. Definitely watched this one last night. So both of them are rather fresh.
Last Night in Soho?
Oh.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think this is Edgar Wright.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Edgar Wright. It's usually at the top. 2021 film about an aspiring fashion designer who can mysteriously get into the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And so her name's Eloise. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
Okay, because I kept saying, I was like, I think I'm saying it wrong.
Eloise Turner.
Yes, and she's played by, oh my god,
Thomasin McKenzie.
Oh Jesus Christ! Why are they doing this to me?
I got you. Don't worry.
Thanks, bro. Yeah, we got that. We got Anna Taylor-Joy in it as Sandy. Matt Smith as Jack. And then selling to Johnny's, and then a couple other little
little names here and there.
Yeah. One of the guys I recognize. I just can't remember what he was in. The older guy that played.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, that face, I know that guy, but I just did not look him up.
He has a very recognizable actor face.
So what we get is the movie opens up, and this Eloise is talking to her. She's kind of going through some stuff. She's got some designer things that she's looking at, and she made a dress out of newspaper, and she's doing the thing, and she sees her dead mom in the mirror, kind of does a high five with her and all that stuff.
Fist bump.
Yeah. And find out she's raised by her grandma, and that this academy that really never comes into play at all just said, hey, why don't you come to London? We're going to get you into, designer school, and we'll have you, take classes. We really like your work if we think you got a chance. So she goes to London. First night's a little bit of a drag in terms of just being a social outcast.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, like friend getting boned or roommate having sex, and then she gets out, and then she goes to the party and decides that she's going to go to sleep. And, a nice gentleman, not the one that hits on her, but the other guy kind of just sticks up for her and, defends her, and they get to talking and whatnot, which I was like, this is odd. No one's like, hey man, like what's up?
Yeah.
Just, this is normal. And then, so she goes, hey, not my life. I'm going to go get an apartment. I'm going to get a job. I want to be by myself. So she goes and sees, one of the landlords for an apartment and, gets a job at a bar so she can pay for it. And one night, all of a sudden, she's just transported back into the 60s. She's just a completely different person. She kind of doesn't know what's going on. It's like she's, out of body, so she's looking through the mirrors and stuff. And they do a really good job letting you know that she's someone else for, I would say, longer than needed. Like, there was like a shot where... how about this? That's about it. And then all of a sudden, events happen. Eloise goes through, and it's kind of turning into this little bit of detective work, murder mystery, hallucinations, just some bizarre stuff.
Yeah.
So, and that's about the gist. So, yeah. Kyle, where do you want to start off with this?
So this is my second time seeing this movie. Your first time, and I feel about the same that I did when I first watched it. I think it's Edgar Wright's weakest movie that I've seen.
100%.
I think that
let's go through the.
It really, I really like the ideas that they present in it, and there's a lot that I do appreciate about it. But the ending, I think the third act is like the weakest part of the movie by far.
The whole movie's weak.
I think.
I'm sorry, did I say that out loud?
Yes, you did.
Oh, okay.
But we'll get into it.
Well, that's on air.
That's in the recording.
Yeah.
So I think that like I said, I like the ideas. I really like Thomasin McKenzie. I think she is a good actress, and I think that she plays the part well. I like the concept of her losing her mind, and she's got this connection to her mom having like this mental illness, and that sort of plays into what's happening in the story. And I like what they have going as far as like the ideas.
So I guess I missed a little bit on the mental illness because I had to look this up. I was like, I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. And then someone mentioned that she might have schizophrenia.
Yes. They don't outright say it until she's in the police station.
Okay.
Being interviewed by those detectives. But
yeah.
You kind of get that sense at the beginning when she sees her mom in the mirror, and then her grandma comes into her room and she's like, now you're going to be okay. No, you don't need the medication anymore. Because
she said that.
Okay. We know that your mother wasn't as strong as she wanted to be, or like something like that.
Yeah.
So, and then like when she goes into London and she talks to those people that like she's roommates with or whatever, like one of them, she tells them that, oh yeah, my mom killed herself, because like they ask her like, what happened to your mom?
Yeah.
So you get that sense early on that like she doesn't have her full mental faculties with her.
Which is kind of bizarre to me because she's like becoming a fashion designer.
Right.
Which they make millions of dollars.
Well, like she wants to continue that because like her grandma's a seamstress and her mom was like kind of in the same business. So
I know. I'm not. There were a lot of choices that I just did not agree with in this film. And it was like, it's the same thing I always say. If you could pick anything, The fashion doesn't play really into any of this.
No, well, it does for a bit because she goes back in time the first time, and then she uses the dress that she saw Anya Taylor-Joy wearing as like inspiration. If
I could have did it with music,
right?
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm saying, you could substitute out, and you're picking something of that 60 years ago that is probably.
It is a strange choice to use like fashion as the kind of backdrop for why these things are happening.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but I mean, like, and I'm not. Obviously, people have mental illnesses, but like, why don't you pick something that's not as? I feel like you have to have your bearings for. Mm-hmm. You know, like music. If someone, and I'm just using this as an example, but if you were like, oh yeah, she has schizophrenia or something like that, and she got on the piano and just went nuts. It's like, you know, there are people that have Alzheimer's that they process memories if they like when they listen to music they used to listen to it like when they were children. You know, it helps kind of slow. I don't know if it helps slow it down, but it does help with some of the memories and being able to recall like bits of information or thoughts.
Yeah,
you know, so like there's probably a different career that they could have used. For her, I didn't really pick up on it.
I didn't mind the fashion too much because, like you said, it does take like focus and concentration for that type of thing, and
yes,
it does kind of serve a purpose later in that like she's starting to lose it. She gets frustrated. She like rips her paper and like throws it, and they're like, "Whoa, Ellie, what's wrong?" You know, people around her start to become more concerned about her mental well-being, or they make fun of it, like her.
I think there's like one person that cared. Everyone else in this film really just never felt like they were concerned about what was going on with her.
Well, the female detective, the guy, the like love interest, her grandma, the
right,
the
but
teacher.
Those are all characters that are set up to be the support system. Like the one that I was saying is the love interest. He kind of came in, and that's the one that I'd be like, all right,
he's really the only one who does anything for her.
That's all I'm saying. Like she was literally on her own the whole time and just running around the streets of L.A.
Yeah,
and I guess they used the mental.
You mean London?
Yeah, London. Sorry,
L.A.'s the other film that we're gonna touch on.
Yes,
just you wait.
Yeah. I don't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
I'm just gonna. I'll probably just shit on this film every chance I get. So
I have a feeling that I like this a little more than you did.
I have a feeling like you did too.
So.
But you're helping me out with some stuff. I read that she might have schizophrenia. I didn't realize that. I thought it was maybe a theory. But now that you're talking about it, it definitely sounds like they could play into that to give kind of like a sort of an unreliable character. Mm-hmm. You know, what we're seeing in this psychological thriller might not be exactly what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
And she's toying with the world because we're following her as a character. So we can't really trust, what's going on with her, with her mental state.
I feel like this movie was a lot stronger in the first half than the last. So the first half, it does a good job, in my opinion, of establishing like where it wants to go. Mm-hmm. So like the whole being transported back in time to the 60s and how that sort of is slowly being enmeshed into her real life and sort of interfering with her day to day.
Yes.
It starts that it only happens at night, and then it slowly like creeps into like a few elements of her daytime, and like pretty soon it's like all that she can see and all that she can like focus on and deal with is like, because when she's at the library, the hallucinations and the guys start popping up, which I want to talk about that for a second.
Fucking weak scene. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, like I agree with you, and I think that one of the weakest parts of this movie is the whole like zombie element of it, like that. I don't think was needed at all. Are we getting into it?
Because this is what pissed me off.
So like
at the very end. So like I'm
as a horror movie, I don't think this movie works. Like it's not scary. Like
no.
the zombies are like way too goofy for their own good. They're all in their underwear,
they're like
crawling
supposed
at
to be
her.
Spirits, and it felt like they were the Edgar Wright was kind of prying at the men of the industry, taking advantage of women that are trying. Like I was telling Jasmine, I was like, this could be in any industry, any sort of creative undertaking in which you have to rise up and you have to establish a name for yourself through a business, and like it kind of felt like that he was jabbing at like old rich white dudes that take advantage of these young girls as they come through, make these false promises and just pass them around from person to person and they just hold them down.
Yeah.
It's kind of that glass ceiling that we talk about with women in terms of employment, that they're never able to get to a certain point because, the people that are ahead of them underpay them and they don't match fair wages, right? So I was kind of like, all right, maybe this is that metaphor.
Mm-hmm. But no, a
big swing and a miss there, Johnny.
No. Well, I see, and that's where like a lot of the elements I don't think mesh very well. Is that like what Eloise is going through? I feel like is so different from what Anya Taylor-Joy's character went through.
Sandy.
Yeah, Sandy. Yeah. That it's hard, I think, to make that mesh. I think it's hard for that to like kind of seem like it has a lot to do with each other because it really doesn't. Like the only thing that connects them is that Thomasin McKenzie, Eloise, has these visions and can see all these things happening in the past. Like that's the only connection she has. She plays
detective. Like it just turned into her being a detective and trying to figure out what happened to the Sandy.
Yeah. All the while she's going crazy and like running away from these zombies.
And no one gives a shit, and everyone calls her crazy, and she almost stabs a chick. And then I got so pissed at that because I'm like, and that's where the schizophrenia part kind of starts to pick up for me a little bit of her being like, I don't know if it's right calling her unreliable narrator, but I mean, we are following her story and the fact that she has this problem, quote unquote, that we're not really sure about is that her dreams that she has when she goes to sleep start to stem into real life, which to me didn't really make much sense.
Yeah.
But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, all right, I mean, if she does have a mental condition, then like maybe we are seeing, her kind of losing it a little bit. But and it doesn't make sense because then she ends up doing the right thing anyway.
Yeah, because she ends up being right the entire time.
Yeah,
because like you could argue that she's an unreliable narrator until you get to the point where you realize, oh shit, she's been spot on about everything this entire time.
That's the fucking problem that I have with this. And not only that, we get into the fucking weird zombie rich white dudes that so Sandy is getting whored out by this guy named Jack,
played by Matt Smith.
Yeah, and which I thought I liked him. Not his character, but I thought he did a good job in it. But and it they kept, dude. It was every time they go back, it's just her getting like prostituted. Like they just beat it over the head so much, and it's like I think he had about 40 minutes worth of a story that he had to make 2 hours and 10 minutes long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just under 2 hours, I think. But yeah,
that's what I'm looking up because I don't remember. I just remember being so frustrated, and I was kind of guessing because in terms of a psychological thriller, yeah, just under hour 56. In terms of like a psychological thriller, I mean, it's like it's kind of fun up to a point.
That's what I'm saying. Like I think it starts out strong.
Yeah.
Because the ideas that are presented are very interesting, and then once you get to a certain point, it just kind of goes downhill.
Like literally falls off a cliff.
Mm-hmm. I think that the zombies are really goofy. I think that the ending is
they're supposed
terrible.
to be spirits, right? Like
they're spirits, but they act like zombies. Like they're reaching out for her and like grabbing for her, and they're all going like, To me, they felt more like zombies than ghosts, but they were like
just shit. I mean, that was bad.
Either way you look at it, it's not satisfactory. Yes. And then towards the end, when they're like holding her on the bed, and like the one zombie dude's like, "Help us! Help us! Kill her!" It's like, okay, beat us over the head with it. Why don't you like make it
not
more
only that,
obvious?
But like, why are they doing this to her if they're trying to get her to help?
Yeah, and also, why are you trying to make us sympathize with like all these people who are taking advantage of Sandy's character?
Dude, like, we get done with that, and I'm like,
not sure what that's about.
Why did we just go through all this, and then they flip it, and it ends up being, and watch it up to, if you stop right now if you haven't seen it yet or you're interested. I wouldn't recommend it, but whatever. It just turns out to be Sandy, and she's like, I've been killing him. I was doing, and then like
I know
she's running through the vents in her head, and she's like, oh my god, like and then like we're doing all the math, and we're seeing, and it's like, okay, so why do we pick fucking rape and prostitution then if we're gonna come back and have her kill it? And then I was like, Well, I agree with her. Like, I don't care if she has been doing this.
It's like she totally could have made a case to let, like, Thomas and Mackenzie would have understood. Like, she would have been like,
you think?
I got you, girl, you know? But then she's like, she goes full villain monologue and it's like, yes, I've been killing all of them. And also, I've put poison in your tea. You're going to die. Don't worry. I won't stab you like I did the others. Like,
yeah, I'll just let you do whatever we got to do. And then, oh my God. And then, what do you call it? The
Ex Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, with this fucking cigarette.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't even, like, the house is just on fire. I was like, I don't even remember how it happened.
Not only is the house on fire, the fire spreads the slowest, most convenient way for the characters possible.
Yes.
Like, it never really touches the stairs. It never really goes into the bedroom until, the old lady's ready to die. And she's like, just go, save the boy. And she's like, no, I'm not giving up on you. And then the old lady's like, it's too late for me. And then, fire engulfs her. And then she goes downstairs. Dude who's laying on the ground where the fire originated is still completely untouched by the fire.
Yep.
Like, no burns or anything. Like, he's not harmed other than, like, a stab wound to the stomach, which probably should have killed him by then.
Yep.
Because they were crawling up that stairs for, like, 15 minutes. And then they get saved at the end and everything's all good. And, really no consequences to, like, Thomas and Mackenzie's actions. Like,
I mean, she almost killed a gal, burned down an apartment building. And then there's just like, wow, you found her. Like, and that, and
then she's like, oh, she impressed everybody at the fashion show.
Yep. Hey, you're getting a raise.
And then she sees her mom in the mirror and her mom's like, fist bump, daughter. And then boom. And then she sees Anya Taylor-Joy one more time in the mirror. And then that's the end of that.
So the question, I guess, and I didn't think, I saw the Anna Taylor-Joy thing with the smile, and I was like, all right, I mean, is it a little bit of I'm always going to live in your mind? Like, I will always be here? Was it I've helped you? You say, like, this is what drove me nuts.
I'm not sure what that was supposed to mean because I'm not sure what Edgar Wright wanted us to take away from this. Like,
I thought it was like, hey, like, rich white guys, will do anything to fucking... And then it just turned out, no, we're supposed to save them and release them from purgatory.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if, we did all these terrible things, like, we still should be allowed into heaven.
Right.
Like,
help us.
Yeah. I was just staring. I was like, oh my God, why did you pick that act? Why couldn't it have been like drug dealers or something? Pick something where we shouldn't even say that, where we would sympathize with the people,
Mm-hmm.
Like that they were trying to help Sandy.
He wanted us to, like, he wanted to subvert our expectations in that, we thought all the guys using her were scummy, but it turns out they need help or whatever at the end. It's like, but that's such a dumb way of going about it.
It was I was like, this thing got like workshopped and he got thrust into making this thing. Like, I don't think he wanted to do this.
Well, it definitely doesn't feel like he was as passionate about it as like his other films.
And then it gets a whole bunch of praise from people. Like, you go on this, like, one thing was like, this is a feminist movement movie.
No, I just think it's a subpar film.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's bad. Like, I don't hate it at all. Like, there's actually a lot of elements that I like about it.
Really?
Well, I like the acting. I think the cinematography is very unique. Like, a lot of the visual stuff going on, I like. Aside from the zombies, I thought they were stupid. I think a lot of the ideas and the concepts were really interesting and cool. And I liked the first half of it, honestly. Like, I liked how the first half of it was. I thought the music in the first half was very strong. I think towards the end, it sort of got more and more weak, especially when the fire's going on and it's got the swelling music happening. But I'm
trying to think of when this just went down to shit. Because, like, I thought it would have been way more interesting. I mean, it would have probably been predictable, but I would have been way more interested had it been her mom. That she was, because the mom really doesn't do anything in this thing. I don't know why the mom's even...
No, she's not really important to the story. She's just there to serve the fact that, like, oh, Thomas and Mackenzie's character is crazy. Like, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So speaking of predictability, did you predict that the old lady was Anya Taylor-Joy? Because the first time watching it, I saw it coming a mile away. Mm-hmm.
No, when we were doing it, I didn't know what to expect. I thought this was going to be a movie about Anna Taylor-Joy in the 60s, like rising or doing some important things, and ended up being like killed in kind of like 1960s whodunit. What do you call those? Unsolved mysteries, you know, and that we would have got more as we go along. Events of her death would have leaked to Thomas and Mackenzie, who's only available to see, like almost like Black Phone. Yeah. You know, I was kind of thinking that might be the element, or that might be kind of what he was going for, is that we're going to go through and we get to see more and more of this life. And the further that she gets into the fashion industry, the more that she thinks about getting out, just because she sees what it can do, you know? And I honestly, I was like, oh, I really hope it's the mom. I was like, I really hope that Anna Taylor-Joy is her mom, and that she's going to avenge, you know, get retribution for her mom's untimely death, committing suicide, which easily could have been, you know, pushed out of a window so everyone thinks she's jumped, but really Jack killed her because she fought him off and said, I'm not doing this anymore, you know. But no, that's where my mind was going the whole time. I was like, oh man, like what's going on? And then when the guy got hit by the car, I called that coming. He was in the thing.
That was so dumb. I hated that so much.
Like he comes in there and he's like trying to help her, and she's doing the, no, it's you, you're him, you know. And I was like, he's gonna help her, and then he's gonna get killed, or something's gonna happen, and then it's just gonna be that was the only person that could have helped, and she's gonna realize it, and then it happened, and I just looked at, you know, I'm like this fucking movie, you know. And then I was like, well, I don't. And then when she started talking, I was like, oh, okay, that's why there's no men allowed in that apartment.
Yeah,
right.
There's a lot of. I do think that there's a decent amount of detail with like some foreshadowing stuff. Like, I never noticed it before, but in the beginning when she's talking to her grandma in her room, and her grandma's telling her like, oh, I'm afraid of you in London. Just be sure to stay safe. And Thomas and Mackenzie like goes up to her, kind of pretending to be a ghost, holds her arms up and goes like, I can defend myself. And she's holding a pair of scissors in her hand as she's doing that.
Oh, wow.
So it kind of foreshadows like the almost face stabbing that happens in the library scene.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people almost getting hit by cars in this movie. So it sort of foreshadows what happens to that old man, which I would have liked better if that scene wasn't so stupid. And forced, but
oh really?
Yeah. There's also some fire, I think, foreshadowing, but I forget exactly what it was, or like when it happened. You were watching it. Yeah, but I forget the exact scene that it was in. I think it might have been like during her conversation with her roommate when she first meets her or something. I'm not entirely sure.
There's something that's going on. She's like, put that out. You don't want to have a
And then, of course, like the name stuff, like Jocasta, she crosses her last name out because she's like, I just feel it makes more of a statement. And then, like, there's the whole situation with Sandy and her name and all the names she goes by, you know, Alexandria, Alex, Lexi, like all these different things. So, a lot of different, like, name play going on. Of course, with Ellie, too, like Ellie, Eloise, Elle, you know, just all these different things. So I liked a lot of, like, the details that he put in. I feel like Edgar Wright usually tries to be pretty detailed about most of his films. It's just that this one I definitely felt was the weakest one for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I will hold it against him. I don't give a shit.
I was listening to another podcast that was talking about this movie, and they said something that I think makes a lot of sense, in that most Edgar Wright movies, it feels like he's sort of parodying the type of movie that he's making while also making a decent movie out of that genre. You know how Hot Fuzz is like, it's a trope on buddy cop movies, but he's still making a good buddy cop movie.
Yeah.
It feels like that element is missing a lot in this movie, because it doesn't feel like it's like touching on anything deeper than that. It's just trying to be, a psychological thriller.
I will say this, if he did try to parody it, I can kind of see it by making it this way, kind of predictable. Like that scene that you're saying, it was so forced and predictable. Like he might have, if we ran into him, he was like, oh, I did it that way intentionally because that's how it always happens. Yeah. You know, I would be like, oh, okay, like, but you just didn't do a good job, or like we're so invested that you're actually, you know, that we missed it because there's no really humor involved in this thing. So I could see it, and if he did intentionally do it, I could see it being like a big, you know, That's a big swing and a miss.
That's another thing too, is that normally Edgar Wright's really funny with his movies. Like normally his films are packed with humor, and this one just wasn't really. Like there's a lot of awkward moments that you could laugh at being uncomfortable, but Hot Fuzz, his Cornetto trilogy, like Scott Pilgrim, Baby Driver, like those are all jam-packed with like comedic moments.
Yeah.
Baby Driver's a little more serious than his other stuff, but it's still like, I would say, half of a comedy.
Right. I mean, there's elements I haven't seen it yet, but yeah, elements of humor in it.
Yeah. This one I feel like is just missing that core part of like what makes a lot of Edgar Wright movies special. Dude, at least to me.
He had it going for me for a decent amount of time. As soon as Jack starts walking her through the hallway and she's seeing all these girls,
being used.
Oh my God, just getting into drugs, dying, being used, all that stuff. I was like, yeah, you know. But then that's when it stopped.
I think they should have at least to me like drawn it out a little more. I feel like that reveal of everything being shitty and these girls being used is really quick. Like, I think that if they had drawn it out a little more, we could have been a little more invested in what was going on, because it's happened so quick that by the time we get to the end, it's like, all right, it feels like they're beating us over the head with this concept,
Yeah, the whole thing was, they did the name thing scene 2 or 3 times when she switched up names.
Yeah.
She's, for some reason, in love with Jack. She looks at Jack just really pissed off all the time, and I guess I'm so not used to it, because it's like, if you don't like what you're doing, like, can't you just get in a car and go? Like, they were never like, oh, she's handcuffed. I mean, it's like, what was keeping her around? I thought that they were using like her affection for Jack.
I think it was 2 different things. I think it was the promise that she would eventually get to something better, be able to sing and do what she actually wants to do, and the fact that I think it's implied that she's under the influence of drugs and alcohol. Like, I think that has a lot to do with what was going on there. Like, just some sort of psychological, abuse, like manipulation stuff going on. So I'm just saying, it just felt cartoony how to do it. Oh yeah, it definitely beat you over the head with it. That's for sure.
It reminded me of the scene in Taken when he gets in there and he sees like the sex trafficking and what they do to the girls, and it's like,
it's almost like mustache twirling in a way, like kind of like very villainy, over the top. Like, yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It's like not really gritty or down to earth or like what really happens. Like Taken was more visual or visceral, or however you want to say it, than this.
Yeah,
like in that regard. This one was a quick. You just see her, like, what you're getting into.
Yeah,
and then it's like just kind of assume that you're gonna be in this vice script now for. And that's what we see. And instead of running away, there's another thing. So instead of running away, she just starts killing him.
Yep. And then she just becomes a serial killer of all these men, and then puts them in the floorboards and like.
How about, what would have been nice too? Like, you get to London and they go, hey, have you ever heard of the story of, like, I don't know if they did that.
Sandy the Slasher.
Well, you don't know it's, whatever you want to call it. Like, have you ever heard it? Like, if you do this, and then it's like, oh, okay, because we might know.
It would have made it a little more of a horror movie.
And there would have been a lot more intrigue with, like, all right, who's gonna do it? Like, all right, because you don't really know. It's not till the end, and there would be no reveal until the end, and there would have been the ghosts or the zombies, that are moving around, so you're kind of wondering, well, who did that to him?
Yeah. I hated the zombies so much. They took me out of it so many times. Like, I watched it the first time, I was like, that's an interesting choice. And watching it the second time, it just solidified how much I don't like them.
I don't.
I didn't get it. What would you say you liked about it? Because, you have I feel like I have a more positive outlook on this movie.
The acting to me was all right. All of it seemed pretty cookie cutter, if you will. Like, this film really seemed polished and wrapped up and too nicely done. And to be a psychological thriller, there wasn't any real edginess around it. Like, you've got the edginess that you could have had with what she sees, and we get a little bit of it, but not a whole lot. The murders, it really just kind of bats you over the head with that at the very end of it. Even if she has schizophrenia, I think the only time you're really thinking that she might do something that she regrets is stabbing that chick with the scissors, which nothing comes from that.
No.
Literally, the chick runs out screaming, she tried to kill me, and then the cops don't even there's nothing that happens.
No, and she goes to the cops earlier in the movie, and it's like the cops know that she has like this mental thing going on, and so they just don't do anything, I guess, when this girl screams that she almost killed her.
Nothing. So that's the problem that I have with it. It's like it's too nice. It's just there's so much stuff happening, and the fact that she's having these visions that's starting to twirl into the real world without any real explanation besides us as audience members maybe going it's a schizophrenia. But at that point, like if it's unreliable, then she should be not on the right track at all, and either luck into finding out Sandy did it, or there's got to be a better explanation about how she came to that rationale. Nothing. And it's really just, watching it, I kind of felt like he was in London taking kind of a cool like fashion design world and like, let's make it mysterious. And that was it. And then I was like, oh man, rich old white guy's getting it. Fucking awesome. Like, taking like great. Like they did all that dumb shit. Men of power that abuse it, like fuck them, you know.
Yeah,
and then you get to the end, and then it's like, help us.
I hated that. That was so stupid.
And I'm like, there goes all the edginess that we had.
Yeah, there goes all the like support, I guess, that Thomas and Mackenzie would have had for this character. But I mean, she still has that support, so why even throw that in the movie at all? Like, and it's not like they helped her get the phone or anything. It's like they just were there at one last time as like a, hey, have a different point of view on us being in this movie.
Yeah. Not only that, it's like he sets it up like they're trying to kill her, and then it's like, help us. And I'm like, I hate that. I hate when directors do that shit.
It's so stupid.
Of like they literally like grab her, tie her to the bed. Like they're all like clamoring over here. I'm like, oh, she's about to get raped. You know, like this is like getting like really dark. And then the guy like takes off his mask and Scooby-Doo and's like, hey, really, like we're all fucked up. Like, can you please stop her? And like, what are you doing then? What are we doing? Like they should all just be in the, like if she's sitting down, they should all just be in the room, like sitting there. Like, but he had to make it creepy, and he's playing it, dude. I got done with the thing. I was like, I can't believe I just watched this shit.
Yeah.
So I mean, in terms of what I liked,
you said that it's like some of the acting you liked.
Jack was all right. I mean, Anna Taylor-Joy's a joy, you know.
Quite literally. I like Thomas and Mackenzie a lot. I liked her as the main character.
She did. I mean, for me with these films, the reason why it's hard for me to grade anything, because it's like, okay, you're gonna be two-dimensional. You're gonna be like, did she grow at all out of this? Was there any like she rediscovered?
Well, her character really didn't grow much, but I'm just saying her acting I thought was good.
Right, but I mean like it's being scared, and you can be bad at being scared, but I'm never like, I have a number one movie that I've watched of someone acting scared that I was like, they did a really great job. Like fear, being afraid of something, either you do a good job or you don't. You know, there's not like a dramatic role that you just knock out of the park. You know, so like I think she was fine. I didn't like, in terms of her emotions and how she was, portraying things, I never was like, man, she's like doing way better. I don't think she carried the film at all. I mean, more of it, if you think about it, more of the film is when you're watching it is you trying to figure out as an audience member what's going on as opposed to what's going on with her.
Yeah, no, it's not really a character movie. It's more of just like a situation movie. Like what's happening in the setting to these characters. The characters are there to have things happen to them, not to really be characters, which is definitely like a weak part of it.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I was like, I mean, just a little bit that you get, and I like the 1960s London. I mean, that was, I thought that was cool. I mean, I was really more intrigued with where they were going to go with it. That's why that's what had the hook for me. As they say, across the pond. So, and then when they started getting into like here's what happened. Okay, I'm just going to tell you right now.
Lay it on.
I was good until the end. Like, I was really like, all right.
That's how I feel.
Like, I was good till the end. Like, but the problem that because the ending fucked it up so bad,
it makes you like retroactively look back and be like,
the whole movie up to that point sucks. I'm like, you could have said anything and gave that ending. So why do I have to value what I just watched if anything could have been substituted? There aren't like really any points that led to that say this is what should have happened. If I can substitute all this out, I'm gonna run in my head and be like, what could have I done to get to that point? You know? So I never now. Kind of having said all that aloud, it plays a little bit more into the schizophrenia aspect of it, but there wasn't enough of it for me to be like, I would have liked him if that's what he was going for, played a little bit more into it. There could have been more things that happened even outside of the visions of the ghost that led us to believe that she was schizophrenic.
Yeah.
You know, very easy stuff too. You have the mom in there. She doesn't do anything besides, and I'm like, even then when I saw it, I was like, oh, she just misses her mom. And the mom's going to be a character of some sort because, you know, it's a support, and the fact that she loves her mom and the mom's always there for her, maybe the mom's what's helping her achieve some of the status. You know, it's like when Jordan, you know, was playing basketball. You get into the mindfulness of the moment, and it helps you, it helps with your performance. You're able to slow everything down. And sometimes people will sing songs. Sometimes, for me, I was like, oh, when she wants to design, her mom steps in and helps her out. So I don't know. I mean, and then because the ending was just shit, it's like, why? You listening to you describe it that way, it made me think of a movie that is a lot like this, but in my opinion, a lot better. Saint Maud. Oh, it's a lot of similar concepts. Like female lead character has a mental illness that deteriorates the longer the movie goes on. It's got a lot of horror elements to it, but I think Saint Maud works so much better as like a character movie, as a horror movie. I think that it is the better version of Last Night in Soho. Oh my God, yes. No, this movie was just, and I liked you talking about Edgar Wright, and I think there are probably, if I were to watch it again, things with the foreshadowing or maybe some metaphors he's going for. Maybe we really kind of see why he chose to have it this way with the guys. But I mean, the fact, I mean, dude, and I called the poison in the tea. I mean, she sits down and she's like, "Can I get you a cup of coffee?" I was like, "There's poison in that. She's gonna die." You know, I was like, "This is." We got to that point. I missed a cigarette, but apparently she set it on a piece of wood that caught, and I was like,
she threw it in a stack of albums, and the one album that was in the front said "Let's Get Dusty" or something like that.
Oh no. Like, hey, Sandy, how many times do you do that normally? Or is it just this one instance that you're gonna light up and you're just throwing it? Yeah, right. Like, just for no reason.
There's a lot of predictability in this movie.
100. It sucks. It's why it's unfortunate. And then and I think I might be just frustrated because some of the predictability that I was giving it a little bit too much more credit at points than I think I should have. Gotcha. Like, that's why I say it's pretty cookie cutter, because, like, I'm a little bit of an abstract thinker when I watch films. Like, I kind of go into, one, what would I do? Two, like, what would make this creepy? And usually I undersell it because I'm sitting here talking into a podcast and that guy's making millions of dollars. You know, but this one, like, I felt like I was way over the top on what should have happened. And he just went with, like, pulled out a fucking playbook of how to make a psychological thriller and just got it onto tape. Yeah. It definitely feels that way at a lot of points. We can wrap this up. What would you rate this? Unfortunately, so I teetered. I opened up IMDb and I just hit one in the middle. I gave it a 6, and I sat there and stared at it, and I was like, this doesn't feel right, so I bumped it down to a 5. And I think that's just where I'm going to leave it at, because I doubt I'll ever see this again. I don't really, if you have any value that you think this would help someone as a movie lover, you know, in terms of go ahead. I think technically this movie is pretty competent. I think that visually, in terms of, like, the camera work, the cinematography, I think it's really well done. I liked a lot of the acting behind the characters. I liked the general ideas and the concepts that they were bringing forward, which I think is why I like the first half quite a bit, because it's just nothing but ideas and concepts. It's a lot of, like, oh, where is this movie going? Like, what's the mystery behind it? Where is it all leading to? But then, like you said, once you get to the ending,
once you get to like that third act, it all just kind of falls off a shelf, and it's really weak compared to what we got in the first two acts. I think that he just kind of dropped the ball in terms of the ending.
I mean, if you think about psychological thrillers, all of them, when they get to that third act, are all going to be, I mean, for the most part, like different.
Yeah, but it just depends on like what that reveal is.
That's what I'm saying. So that's what separates these films, is that the third act. You can have a good film and have a bad third act.
Yes.
Like you can drop the ball on it and still be good, but it just depends, because I think the difference is the first two acts in all of these films are always, there's elements that are of the same ilk, but they're always presenting different things, and it gets you as an audience member trying to figure it out. And then you really got to fucking pull the cloth off the table if you want to get it, but... So
yeah, I think overall as a film, I enjoyed it, but I'm never going to watch it again.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever need to see it again. If I want to watch an Edgar Wright movie, I'll just put on any other of his films that I've seen except for this one.
Yeah.
I think I give this a 7 out of 10. Is closer to a 6 than an 8 for sure. But yeah, like I said, I think I enjoyed this overall. So that's where we're at. That's where we'll be.
Yeah. That's put a
5 for you, a 7 for me.
Dude, it's just so dumb.
It's very dumb, especially towards the end. Like I think it drops the ball so hard.
It does. Now I'm thinking about it too. I think there's only they were on 5 different sets too. Like it wasn't.
Yeah,
he didn't really go out of his way to do much of anything. It was stylish, and the cinematography was good, and I think it was. There was
Speaking of cinematography, there's a lot of cinematography for sure in Nicholas Winding Refn's The Neon Demon, which is what I recommended.
Yeah,
hallelujah.
Let's go some more NWR productions, huh?
Yeah. So I picked this movie because we're over a year of doing this podcast, and I, kind of like a anniversary in a way. I wanted to talk about another Nicholas Winding Refn film, kind of like we did the first episode. Yeah. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this since you hadn't seen it before. So The Neon Demon is a 2016 psychological horror film directed by Nicholas Winding Refn. Stars Elle Fanning, Carl Glusman, Jenna Malone, and it's got Keanu Reeves in it for a little bit. Yeah, Hank. Room 214.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And is about this young girl who's a month over 16 who goes to LA. Doesn't have her parents around anymore. She doesn't exactly explain why. And she enters the world of modeling. And she is sort of a force in that she has a lot of these people who envy her looks and envy the way that she walks and envy who she is. And as the movie progresses, she starts to kind of recognize that sort of perception of herself and other people. And so her ego sort of begins to adjust to that accordingly. And a lot of it is painted over this Nicholas Winding Refn style of writing, style of cinematography, style of how the characters act. And we'll get into that for sure.
Of course.
In our discussion.
Yes.
So before you had watched this, you were kind of talking to me about it, and you said that you thought it would be more closer to Too Old to Die Young Refn than Only God Forgives Refn. Now that you've watched the movie, how do you feel about that?
No, 100%. I think this was he's got a very unique style of directing, and I think he places way more emphasis on himself and what he's doing with the camera and the music, and taking us as audience members and the visual symbolism, all that stuff, than he does with the characters. I think he really just sucks out any emotion that any character is supposed to have. and you'll get it through the scenes in which they're feeling or what's going on with their minds, as opposed to them explaining or doing.
Yes.
So that I definitely feel like that is closer to. I mean, I went dry. Like the way I think about it, I mean, Only God Forgives was like him going into that world, because Drive is somewhat of the same ilk, but the scripting and the dialogue is much faster paced.
Well, it was also not written by Refn.
Right.
Like Only God Forgives, Neon Demon, Tool to Die Young, all written by Nicholas Winding Refn.
So, yeah, no, this one, it was way closer to Tool to Die Young. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I mean, yeah, so that's what I would say on it. I don't know, are you in the same boat too, or do you think it's... Yeah,
no, it's definitely... It's definitely Tool to Die Young Refn in terms of, like, the way that the characters interact with each other. Yes. I will say I do feel as though this movie is a little bit better about it, because... Oh, yeah. No, there are... For the most part, there's times where there's dialogue's a little bit more snappy. Yes. It feels a little more natural. It feels 100%. A little more how, like, human beings kind of speak to each other, almost. Yeah. They're just not vessels. Yeah, they're not just like, oh... These are props that sort of talk to each other in a movie, kind of like how Refn had in Only God Forgives and Too Old to Die Young in so many points. Yeah. I think, I don't know. Like, I'm curious as to your thoughts, because I definitely have mine. Like, I want to know, like, top level what you thought of this movie. I liked it. Yeah, I liked this. The synth. The music score, like his score was like phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Once again, he's got 2 songs in it. I think there's like a song right at the beginning and a song right at the end. And then he's got this, I think one of his songs that he came up with or whatever is called like the Demon Dance. It says Cliff Martinez did the music. Did it? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I mean, he had to have been with the guy saying this is what I want, but right. Dude, this dude with the lighting and his cinematography is so fucking good. It's visually probably one of the best movies I've seen. Oh, dude. I mean, the lighting alone. There's a scene where she's on before the cougar shows up. Mm-hmm. And she's talking to Dean. Yeah. And they're kind of going, they're going over. And he just had it was so striking because he just left the street light on. Mm-hmm. Like he had but that's what he was using for the lighting of the scene, mm-hmm. which it contrasted at the beginning of it. He's got 2 lamps, one laying down, one up, obviously for the shot that they're trying to get. But then he's got the outline in red, and then he's zooming out. So I mean, he manufactures lighting, but he also uses natural lighting, and it's just like this dude he's got it. Like, if he could just fucking relate to people. I know, right? I love him so much as a visual director. Oh my God, so much. He's so good with, like, the lighting and the cinematography and, like, the music, like, the style. Nicholas Winding Refn has a perfect style that I absolutely love and adore. Well, it fits the Neon Crew. I mean, this is synthwave music and freaking neon lights. Yeah, just the vibrancy of the lights, and then you get into some of the darker hues with it. I mean, but it's still colorful. Like, yes. There's a very vibrant aspect to it. Like, the reds and the blues and the purples and the mm-hmm. pinks, like all this stuff going on in terms of like the color use in this movie. Yes. So good. Like, I think that it's the best in terms of like visuals and cinematography. The makeup that he has on some of the gals in this. I mean, mm-hmm. just the costume, the wardrobe involved. I know. I mean, like, really, Jasmine fell asleep, but I watched it and I was like, this is like, I mean, I think I had to look it up after like I was done. I was like, I wonder how far off I am with what I thought. I thought this was a movie about female exploitation and females, and using the modeling industry as a way to show how females in society are viewed and looked at. And the easiest way to do it is with modeling, because we judge a girl on her looks simply when she's on the cover of something, as opposed to who that person is. Yeah. And the one thing that I actually was happy about, because I mean, I'm still sticking with what I thought it was. I read a couple of, Predator and Prey and all that stuff. I still think, there's themes of it, but I definitely think, like, if you were to just break us down as male and female, like, and you were to hunt, you're probably targeting a female over a male. I definitely got like a lot of the Predator allegory stuff that they were going for, like with obviously like the cougar that breaks into her room, and then of course Keanu Reeves' character is just a predator. You could argue that a lot of the modeling agency people are predators and that they use these girls purely for their looks. There's the one guy who says beauty isn't everything, it's the only thing.
Yep.
You know, and also
probably my second favorite character.
He doesn't get much screen time at all.
Not at all. But I recognized him from he's in Face Off.
Oh really?
Yeah, he was I can't remember the guy's name. It was, anyways, yeah.
Yeah, I liked him as a character. He felt like a character.
He did, and that's what I really liked. I mean, the acting in this thing is like really good.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was good. I mean, it's definitely like Nicholas Winding Refn kind of dialogue and script, and in terms of like direction.
But I mean, Keanu comes in. Keanu killed it.
Yeah,
I mean, he made you think.
He plays an absolute asshole. It's like the most asshole role that he's ever played.
I would say sleazy motel manager about as best as you can.
Yeah.
And the best thing is like he blames her for the cougar getting in, and then he's like getting up Dean like about fucking like, you know, like, oh, like real hard candy you got there, you know. And I was like, I didn't realize that was like a saying for kind of like child, you know.
Yeah.
Child, you know.
Yeah. We don't have to get too detailed about it.
Right. And, you know, so I was like, oh my God. He's like, I got a girl in 214, huh? She's only 13.
13-year-old runaway.
Yeah, Sandusky, Ohio. Here she is trying to start new. What do you think about that? You know, and then he's like, all right, I'll pay the money. And he's like, good. $100. And I was like dying. He goes, door plus labor, $100. And I was like, how fucking hard up are these people?
And then he's like, or was it 200?
I got 140.
Like,
sold.
Let's have a deal.
Yep.
Or like, we have a deal, or whatever he says.
Yeah. And
there's a reason I have my Keanu shirt on.
Right now. Yeah, you have to.
I have to.
And
anytime I watch a Keanu movie.
I thought he was gonna be like I thought he was gonna be Jack, the first photographer. You know,
when you saw his name pop up.
Well, I knew Keanu was in this one, and I really didn't know. I thought this was gonna be Elle Fanning. Like my thing was, Elle Fanning's gonna get into this. She's gonna be like rise the ranks, and she's gonna kill someone, or jealous lover's gonna kill her like that. And I thought Keanu was gonna be the jealous lover that watched her climb, and you know, can't have it, and it's like almost like A Star Is Born, you know, but like, it's, you know, she kind of like out of nowhere just boom, you know, here you are, and he couldn't have it, or she killed him because he was green with envy, and she's completely alphaed out at that point. You know, hit the top rung, you know. Yeah. And not at all. No. And also in that Keanu, that part, I was like, oh, I like fantastic. And then Jack was from Dexter, you know, and he was such a great dude. I liked all the characters. Like, he comes out there and he's got his, like, he's all black and he's just staring, you know. And he goes,
I think in terms of what Nicholas Winding Refn wanted, I think he got exactly that out of the actors. Like, I think,
I mean, you don't have to, you know, if you don't, yes, no, I agree. I should say it like that. Yes, I think they fit into what he was doing with this film. I mean, that's the merit that I have to hold it with, is like what he,
like, as far as like the mark that he wanted to make, I don't think he missed any of it. Like, I think that he made the film that he absolutely wanted to.
100, yeah, I think
like,
so.
unlike Edgar Wright, maybe.
Dude, that poor guy.
I think in terms of like where I had like where the story went, I don't think I was as big of a fan. Like, I think that I think a lot of like the movie, I liked the first 75% of it quite a bit. Like, the whole aspect of her getting this bigger ego about herself, like, kind of have this like big head about like her looks and like her place in like the modeling world, and how she's just like stepping on all these toes and like stepping on all these girls to like get where she needs to go, like kind of becoming more of like a force in that world. Yeah. Kind of like what you said, like you thought maybe she would like kill somebody. Like, I thought that's kind of where it was going. Like, oh, she's going to get to a point that's absolutely no return for her. Yes. And, you know, that kind of does. That scene happens where like she hears Keanu Reeves like breaking into the next room. Yeah. And she goes to her friend's house, Jenna Malone's house. And,
well, so no one knows if it's Keanu though. That's the one thing that I thought, that's why I took it as female exploitation, because all she does is say he. And I think it was just the metaphorical he.
Yeah.
As in there's another person, another girl, because like a lot of the things that happen with the women, it's all different elements of how we take advantage of women, and that's another one of them is breaking in and doing what I want to do to you.
Absolutely.
And she said I think he killed her. And she's like, who's he? And she doesn't go Hank. She doesn't say. So when she said that, I was like, oh man, like that's kind of like a deep drop, I think. And I think, and it could have been Keanu. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, but then she goes over to Jenna Malone's house, and then she kind of has like a moment of vulnerability. Like you kind of see like the older version of her character a little bit again, and then like towards the end, she's kind of like full blown like, oh, I'm the greatest in terms of like being a model. Like I'm the best. Everybody wants to be me. People would kill to be like a second rate version of me. And so I saw that as okay. She's like really going off the deep end. Maybe sort of like with that visual component of like her on the diving board, going off the deep end.
Yeah.
But then as soon as they chase her and kill her, I think I just like my enjoyment of the movie just kind of dropped.
It's a weird,
like I did not really like that much at all. Like I felt like Nicholas Winding Refn couldn't help himself in terms of like where he wanted the movie to go. It's like, okay, you really had to throw in like all this violence and like this sort of like weird cult aspect, and like they eat her, and I just didn't like it very much.
Like if you think about it, there's another aspect of female exploitation, and it's women taking advantage of women because in terms of equality and fairness with where they're at, if you're not able to have someone that's ahead of you lift you up, you have to step over those in which you're competing with.
Yeah, it's like a dog eat dog world.
So it's Predator, So I was cool with all that. I mean, I was like, oh, they're watching her, and it's playing into. So one of the one of the things that I like that I read was natural beauty can be described as purity, innocence, and naturalness, which she had the whole time. And then we see the transformation that she gets at the shoot, in which, they literally do like fucking her ego breaking through and making out with herself.
Yep.
And then, so that's when it starts to go downhill for her, I think, because now she's actually, described herself as an alpha. And when you're like that, I mean, if you're a lion in the jungle, and you're the top dog, you're going to have to protect yourself as if you're the top dog. So, like, all of that stuff made sense to me and why he had it that way.
Yeah.
I guess the one that didn't was the cannibalism. Well, I tried to, like, what is, like, they thought they're drinking the blood of a unicorn, or...
I think it was, like, the concept of, like, oh, we're going to eat her so then we can be her. And, like... kind of get like that youthful blood of her, because like there's that scene where she's in the bathroom with the other girl and she like steps back, she puts her hand on broken glass, she starts bleeding, and then the other girl like starts licking it off and she's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like it has a little bit more of a foreshadowing to it that I didn't notice the first time, that I noticed the second time, which I did kind of appreciate, but still it did feel really, I don't know, gratuitous to me in terms of like how Nicholas Winding Refn went about it. Because like there's the whole scene with Jenna Malone like masturbating over the corpse. There's the whole scene where like she's just laying on the floor and like, what is she, like pissing blood or something in the moonlight? Like that whole
she killed her. Like she like it, I think from the, and there was one I read on this that I agreed with, was the female, the menstruation, the cycling of the eggs, and cycling of the new model, cycling of a new person. It's the, you're only here till you're 21. So there's going to be like a new model it's always going to just keep, cycling. So I think that was more of a visual of the actual kind of, her killing herself, and I think that's what she did. Either that or she literally, or had just a menstruation right on the floor. I don't know if that much blood comes out. I don't really. But that was like, all of a sudden I was like, oh, is she peeing? And then I was like, oh, it's diarrhea. And then I was like, oh no, it's blood. And I was like, oh, I don't want to know how she got all that blood down there.
To me, it was just so gratuitous. I really wasn't a fan of it. And then, yeah, I just feel like I feel like he couldn't help himself in terms of like, oh, this movie's going one way, I'm just gonna completely switch it another way, and then just have it be like this cult, like cannibal
I never got the cult
bloody
vibe
thing.
from it because there's a reason why they're now. See, that's the thing though, because I was reading up. There was a lot of people that are talking about witches, and I'm like, I think this just is a giant metaphor. And one of the ones I read was, washing your hands with the blood of your enemy or something like that. It being some sort of, it's not necessarily ritualistic, but there's like, there's an old, I don't know if not a proverb, but like a saying.
I think the reason I kind of lean towards that is because like all the tattoos that Jenna Malone has on her, like the way that she kind of looks, and then like her laying in the moonlight in the window had some kind of like culty vibe to it. Like, I don't know. To me, that felt like it was more of a cult thing than anything. But
I never got the gist of that. I mean, that's the difference because I never picked up on that at all. The way I saw it was you had two girls. One that's literally she stripped herself of her beauty, and the other one that's on phasing out of her natural element. And that's why they were. It was all just jealousy, and then obviously there's a sexual desire for Ruby. I think that's Jenna Malone. Yeah, Ruby with her fascination and the desire to have Jesse.
Yeah,
So I all three of them had motivation as to why they did what they did, and then you get to that point that you're talking about with what happened next. I'm like, I'm kind of just bought into it just because at this point, like, why not? But I don't know. I never felt that way about it. And I've read like people were talking about witches, and I was like, he never gave anything that would lead off to them being any like sort of any cult or anything like that. I mean, if anything, you could say it could be a cult of the fashion industry and the envy that you have for someone, but all of their motivations were different as to why they wanted to enter.
There was also her laying in like the patch of dirt, like kind of looked like a burial site almost, in like the garden area. That seemed like a little witchy to me.
She was walking around naked. I mean, the whole thing. I mean, that like there was a cougar that just popped up in fucking East LA in Pasadena. Like there was just things that happened that weren't really. It was more fantastical and obviously not of this world.
Yeah.
So I never. I don't know. Sometimes, and with movies, sometimes I never have to have like it has to be attached to something within the movie, especially Winding Refn. I don't think he strips some of the real world that we're in and puts in his own nuances that he wants. Yeah. And this is the world that this will be this other universe that we're living in now. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm not saying you don't, and obviously it's a thing because there was more than one person that wrote about it. And like witches, I mean, of a cult, like it's not to say it is witches because cults are, but I kind of think of covens, Yeah. So that's where I'm, and it's funny because when I read it, I didn't really see it, but hearing you talk about it, it's interesting. Like I didn't really, because I never got that vibe.
It only cemented it for me after a second watch, because like the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, this is like an interesting, like kind of almost culty thing. And then the second time I watched it today, like I watched it just a few hours ago, I was like, okay, this really cements it for me.
I know, that's why and I don't get that vibe either, because all three of them have different interactions with her, and then the one time they are together, all three of them have different perceptions of what she's doing there. So there's never a groupthink element on why, besides the fact that they all love her beauty.
Yeah, I think I'm just like thinking of Jenna Malone's character specifically more so.
I mean, but that's why, I mean, to me, she's unreliable because of what she did to that corpse. So, like, I don't really, like, she could have did anything after that. And, like, right. I'm like, all right. I'm like, she's just kind of in her own little realm.
Yeah. Could just be fucking crazy. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Well, all three of them. I mean, shit, dude. Gigi was the one that I thought, she's the one that ended up being like, I need to get her out of me. I was like, she's the most sane out of all three of these chicks. The other one had second helpings. Yeah. Out of it came out of one person.
Yeah.
And I was like, the only reason why she's probably doing this too is because she's seen the success that she had with what happened. Because that Jack came back and was like, no, I want you.
I want you.
Yeah. And I'm like...
Yeah, it's like clearly them eating her is like... has actually like positively affected their modeling lives in some way.
That one out of 3.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. No one knows what happened to Ruby. I think she died. Like I think she died.
I think she just pissed on the floor.
It could have been. It never showed that it was blood. I just thought it was a little too soupy to be pee.
Yeah,
that's why I was thinking it was diarrhea.
Discharge of some kind.
Yeah. So he got kind of weird with it at the end there, and I was like, I don't know if he's doing this for the element of horror, but I was like, I kind of vibe with it because this whole movie, these people have wanted to be her. So physically, what's the closest thing you could do?
Eat her.
Yeah. I mean, so it kind of made sense. I just thought there was a little bit more of a metaphor involved with it, especially with them basking in the blood.
Yeah.
And then I did read that, there's some element of the blood of the enemy that you take or whatever that if you bath in it, something happens. I don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I definitely on a second watch, like it was a little more consistent, the ending with like the rest of the movie.
Yes.
I still didn't like it in terms of like how I felt about the rest of it.
It doesn't make it go down any smoother. Like,
well, I don't know. To me, it was really gratuitous, and I thought that where the movie I thought was going, because I thought it was going to be like more about like Elle Fanning's character becoming more of a villain and like stepping on these people more and like kind of embracing her ego and like being the ultimate like, oh, I'm the bad guy of the movie.
I mean, she really did.
She did until she got killed.
Because I don't know, and even if she did, she would have had to have killed them. And she was so narcissistic that she didn't have an equal. So it's probably out of the realm of what could have possibly happened to her in life because of where she was at in her mental state.
Right.
So I thought she was going to jump off the diving board, and then we were going to have the movie go on from there.
Yeah, I thought she was just going to go for it. Like the first time I watched it. Because she's kind of leaning forward, like, oh, is she just gonna like fall over into the empty pool?
Like 100%. I did. I was sitting there and I was like, all right, so she's gonna kill herself. I was like, and then what's Ruby gonna do? Like, we just had the weird scene. Obviously, these girls are gonna have to do something, And I couldn't think of what it would be. And then I didn't even know they fucking ate her until the scene with Jack. I mean, they're sitting there, and then
I didn't know that either until that happened the first time.
Oh, okay. Because like it's like they're just in blood, and it's like, oh, I mean, obviously they had her, they did whatever to her, they just slashed her up, and it's like, what'd you do when that girl, stepped over you? I ate her.
Yeah. Just the like girl asks her,
like really when she says it too, I was like, oh my god, they did. Like that wasn't like I knew that whatever came out of her mouth
that wasn't
was
like a tongue-in-cheek thing.
Yeah. It was like whatever she tells them that they did, she did. And then it goes, and I was like, no. So, I mean, that was, yeah.
I'm not opposed to like the idea of
cannibalism.
You know me, baby. I'm not opposed to like the idea of that being the ending either. To me, I wish it would have been like a little more in line with like how the rest of the movie was.
I mean, dude, it's winding rough. Like, what do you?
I mean, true.
Come on, dude. Like, you're not. Drive is probably the only semblance of an ending that we'll ever have of it actually getting wrapped up in an appropriate way.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, other than that,
like to me, it didn't feel appropriate. I think that's the right word for it. Is like
it's hard to say what should have happened, but yeah, I'm with you because there was a denouement, maybe, if you will, or I mean, the way that it ends, it should have ended after the death. And we really didn't need the last 20 minutes. I mean, so in my head, I'm like, oh, they kill her. I'm cool with it ending, and that's the fact. That's the life of a female. That's in this industry, like, kill or be killed. You can't trust anyone, and everything is always people grabbing at you and wanting to exploit you. And I would have been fine with that because everything around you in that medium or in that environment is tinkering with her. Hank, Dean, all the photo shoots that she has to do. Yeah, Jack. the narcissism that she's kind of going through as being the top, her ego getting to her, maybe making her not as crisp as what she should have been. Mm-hmm. So then you get to that scene with the girls, and it's probably, I mean, I kind of called it at the beginning, like when I first saw it, I was like, oh, someone's gonna. I thought it was gonna be the one that ends up eating the eyeball was the one I thought that was gonna just outright do it, and I thought she was gonna do it out of envy. I didn't think all three of them would have done it, but. All that stuff starts pulling at her, so when she ends up ultimately going through her demise with the girls, and it's kind of the last ones that you might suspect, I was like, that would have been fine. I didn't need the whole, I'm going to stab myself in the stomach and watch it gut out, and then I'm going to see an eyeball pop up, eat that, and I thought she was actually going to open up her stomach and start eating out of her stomach. There
is like a kind of foreshadowing that I just thought about that I did appreciate on a second watch.
Yeah.
They're in the bathroom in the beginning of the movie, and they're talking to each other about lipstick.
Yeah.
And Jenna Malone's character goes, if you name a lipstick after yourself, you're either food or sex.
Yep.
Which one are you? Her name was
Gigi?
No, Elle Fanning's character.
Jesse.
Yeah, which one are you, Jesse? And she, doesn't really answer. And then like at the end of the movie, when she rejects Ruby's sexual advances, they eat her, right afterwards, so pretty much. So she definitely wasn't sex; she was food.
Yeah.
So I do like that foreshadowing a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I think about it, but it doesn't really change how I feel about the ending.
It doesn't, and I'm not going to sit here and defend the scene because I thought the ending was one of the weaker parts of it, and I thought it wasn't needed, but I still felt. I will say this: I thought it was a better ending than Last Night in Soho. 100%. Like. It definitely was, like you said.
I think so.
It was gratuitous and disgusting and probably wasn't needed, but I think it still felt and was in line.
It's more interesting.
And what the movie was doing. I mean, if you're going, are you predator or prey, sex or food? I mean, all those kind of easy notions that we're discussing here is, Darwinism, kill or be killed. Like it gets to that point. I just don't know if we needed to eat her,
right?
But other than that, like it still was in line with the theme or the element that Refn had, as opposed to Last Night in Soho that just didn't make any fucking sense and was lazy.
Ending aside, I do think there are also a lot of shots that are like way too long. Like
yes,
Refn kind of falls into that trap of like, oh, I'm just gonna keep the camera on this thing, slowly pan up as these two girls are taking a shower in blood, and this music's gonna happen, and it's gonna cut back between like Jenna Malone and the girls in the shower, cut back, like, and then there's like also just a lot of different shots throughout the movie that are like that, and I think that after a while it gets really old, especially on a second watch.
Honestly, I think when it starts to get drab is after she goes through her transformation, which that if I had one nitpick, it's that. I guess I get it now, and because I'm a mouth breather sometimes. Because the photo shoot, when they watched, he was trying to find the last model to go. See, here's the thing. I don't know the modeling world, so I'm like, I guess I don't give a shit when you walk. Like, there's like a thing of like, oh, you want to be like with whatever you do, you want to be in this spot. That means you're the top dog. Like in if you play your trombone, right, they have the first seat, right, is the best one, and they kind of label it that way, so I've never cared about that because it's like I'll just do my best to get to that point, and if I can't, I'm obviously just where I'm at. So I really don't give a shit who sits there. It's just a spot. Like, it shouldn't really matter. So when it came to the model walk, I didn't really think about it, but she was the last one to walk. So when her transformation hit, when she was going through her, like, her ego just burst through the fucking wall.
Yeah, quite literally.
Yeah. I was like, okay, this doesn't really, I don't know why this is happening. Like, I don't know why this just... it really was no lead up to it. She wasn't ever. It never felt like she was challenging herself to remain humble or to keep that beauty. Like all of a sudden, it's just they got to the walk and it's like, boom, we're on. You're gonna go from one set. You're gonna go 0 to 80.
They give her like a few lines to like kind of hint that that's where she's going with, like, in terms of like her ego and how she feels about herself. Because like, when she's in that bathroom situation with not Gigi but the other one,
Sarah?
Yeah, Sarah. And
she takes us the kind of the subtle...
it's like a very like...
Hey, you're all right. You still made it or something like that. Mm-hmm. And she's like, don't do that. Mm-hmm. Like, don't condescend me.
Yeah, she says like, don't pretend that you don't know. I think that's what she says to her, right? In the bathroom scene.
It was something, I thought it was more of the lines of like, don't say that, or don't act like that. It wasn't don't act like that. She was like, don't say that. Maybe she does say don't act like you don't know.
Yeah, I think that's what she says.
Because I think she was like, don't be coy with me. You know that, what's going on.
Yeah, you know what you did.
Yeah. Well, she didn't do anything. She just...
Well, yeah, but kind of that sense. And like she makes a comment.
What you're doing. You're coming into this world and you haven't put in your dues, and you're...
And she makes a comment that kind of like echoes what's going to happen later. Like, I forget what the exact comment was, but it was something along the lines of like, I know I am, or like something like that.
Yeah.
So it kind of gives you like a little bit of hint. And then she has another similar line with Gigi when she's sitting in front of the mirrors with her and talking to her. And Gigi says something like, nobody likes how they look. And she says, I like how I look. And that kind of like gives you a little subtle hint of like where she's going towards.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, it's a very like sudden, like it's a literal switch. It goes from like blue lighting to red lighting.
Yeah.
And she's very menacing looking after coming out of the red light.
So when you talk about him holding scenes way too long, like that was one, because all of a sudden like they walked out, and then they do. Now that's what I like though with him. It's like it's so visual.
Yes.
And like, dude, I'm like creatively now. It's kind of I don't want to. It's not trying to sound weird or anything, but like him showing us her becoming a like narcissist with her kissing herself in the mirror, but you had the triangle mirror and the music's pumping and she's just sitting there and she does the first one and it goes so like the first one is she's kind of like looking and all of a sudden she's getting into her head and it's like, all right, what's happening here? And then it goes from blue to red, right? And then it goes back to her and she's like looking in a daze, like she's just getting like this ultimate high of herself. And then they go in and then she's walking out and then you got the mirrors there and then she like looks at her and she's like staring. She's like, no, you can tell she's like, I don't know what's going on. I don't think I like this, And then all of a sudden she looks over at one side and kisses the mirror. And it goes back to her, and all of a sudden, makeup on, hair tied really tight back. There's no loose end. Like, it went, like, fucking full-on confident. And I was like, if that's what it looks like to become, like, just, like, in a second, if I became just narcissistic, like, that's what I think, that's how that looks. And I think it's really creatively done because...
Absolutely.
To describe... To fucking have a mental change like that and not have it be something that is laid out to us as an audience member but described, like, fucking impressive.
I do appreciate that about Refn is that he does show us more than he tells us. He does leave a lot of mystery for us to figure out and like kind of piece together like what it means. A lot of what this movie that I interpreted was like, it is so visually gorgeous and it is so visually stunning. And Refn knows that it's visually stunning. And a lot of the themes of this movie, as what the one character said, beauty isn't everything, it's the only thing. I think that he is kind of making this movie in a way that like, oh, it's beautiful. And like the only thing that people might appreciate about it is that it's beautiful. Kind of the same way how the only thing people might appreciate about these girls is that they're beautiful.
Right.
And that's kind of a little bit of what I got from it, because there's the whole angle of like of Jessie talking about how she's not talented at anything. She can't write, she can't sing, she can't paint, but she can make money off of her looks, and that's what she's going to do. And
you think whining Refn was like, I can't write a script, but I can definitely fucking show a film.
Maybe not necessarily that, but I think that those points do kind of parallel each other in a way.
Yeah.
I think that there is definitely something there.
I think, dude. I think he when he writes, it's a deeper understanding of himself, and he gets it into creatively put it into a play to show us.
Yeah,
and I think so. I'm saying I think Only God Forgives, he was in a really fucked up mental state, and then this one I think he was a little bit more. I mean, like if it's along those lines, Yeah, I think that you might have been describing, this is how I am interpreted or how I'm seen.
Yeah, because Only God Forgives, he wrote that in like a moment of like personal turmoil. Maybe maybe the Neon Demon is like him self-reflecting as a director.
He might have went through like some therapy and was just like, oh, people only love me because I'm good with the camera work and I got some synthy pops that I can throw in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there's the one thing nice about this movie is there's a lot of takeaways and there's different things that you can
just get out of it.
Well, I mean, I said it was female exploitation. There's a lot of predator or prey themes. I mean, you could pull Darwinism into it. Mm-hmm. I thought the triangles for me symbolized more of the womb, and it was more of a kind of what females, how in the simplistic form, for mating and procreation. So I like this whole thing. I was like, man, this is really like a kind
of like her going through a rebirth almost.
Yes, and that's like when she walked out, when she was going through the when she came out and before she got into the triangle.
The pyramid.
She walked out of a triangle. She walked out of a pyramid, and I was like, oh, I think that might represent like a womb. Yeah, the rebirth. Her discovering herself as being, the alpha female, so there's, and there's, I think there's just a million different things. Like you could make a theory that Winding Refn went to therapy on this and he had to get something out about himself and maybe he doesn't see himself in the greatest of light. So that's why he made it into the female story, but, so I've got no idea. I mean, that's why I think makes it fun. Cause there's also the cult ritualistic. You could probably go through with the very beginning scene after the bathroom and they go to the party and the strobe lights are pumping and they got the music going and there's a woman tied up in bondage that was the initiation into the cult, and now that she was being recruited into the cult. She didn't make it into the cult, and that's why they killed her and ate her at the very end of the film. There's so many different things that you could take, and that's
there's a lot of different ways to look at it.
I that's why I really like this. That's why I like this one a lot. I was like, and I think it's way, and I might have to watch Only God Forgives again. But there's a lot more takeaway from this, and I thought the acting was really well done, and the characters were a little bit more fun. Like the Alejandro guy that did the fashion designer was, I think, my first or second favorite character in this thing. Him just. One when he notices Jesse, that was a great scene when he just like he's playing with a fucking handkerchief when the other chick walks in. Jesse comes up, he makes eye contact, and then he just kind of stops. But then they get to the bar and he's going through and he's giving a spiel about beauty and talking to Dean. Yeah, so I mean, I thought all of it. The only nitpick I had was probably the ending, and even that felt in line with what was going on. It reminds me of and we don't have to, nothing's given away or anything like that, but Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah,
I
in a sense.
Like it was kind of gratuitous for me to that point where nothing really had happened that was that gratuitous. All of a sudden ramp it up like that, and then for it to not make as much sense. I mean, it makes sense obviously, but to kind of have it strewn in there for what seems like no reason, but hey, it still felt in line with what was happening in that movie, just like this one for me.
Yeah, it's funny because on Letterboxd, I scrolled through like a lot of the reviews that people have left, and people either really fucking love this movie or they fucking hate it. Like,
I could see that.
I like back to back. I would see like 5 stars, 4.5 stars, 5 stars, 1 star, half star, 2 stars, 5 star. Like all these people, like it's so polarizing, this movie. And to me, it's like I enjoyed it overall. Like I like it. Like I definitely like it way more than Only God Forgives. I think it has a lot more going for it in terms of like what it wants to present to an audience,
yes,
than that film. But I didn't absolutely love it, but I didn't hate it either. Like I think it's a little more like kind of just in between. And I just think it's interesting how polarizing it is in terms of like how people feel about it. Because like I read a few of the reviews and people were saying like, this is just absolute garbage. It's misogynistic. It's like all this stuff. And, I mean.
How do they get misogynistic out of it?
I don't know, but
I guess with every, it's, beauty isn't everything. It's the only thing. Female exploitation. There you go. Misogynistic. Misogyny.
I think that's like a lot of people just kind of missing the point of like what the movie's going for, though, too. Like,
well, that's what I'm saying. It's weird that you hear that thrown at this one, and then Last Night in Soho, it's the feminist like Eloise did what every female needs to do. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know what she did. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this movie I don't think is misogynistic. It's just it has like, it touches on misogyny as a theme. Like, I think that it presents it in the movie as an idea, but it's, the movie itself I don't think is misogynistic in any way.
Oh, I think it's a real look at what happens in that world. Now, obviously, they don't kill people.
Yeah, I was gonna say not them, that real.
Well, no, but I mean, if you think about it, dude, you get to 21.
Just the sentiment,
Well, I would say if you had to go through and I don't know much about it, but if you had to go through and you try to become, you could go actor, singer, songwriter, anything dealing with the entertainment world out in California, it's probably bad, and you have to have another job. And rent's ridiculous. So I mean, to live in a motel, I was like, that makes sense. She doesn't really have a job.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're just trying to make it and get by, and that's what you're going into, but not only that, think about just like in Last Night in Soho. I mean, for her to be promised this is what you'll have to do to get to be this like person, like you have to sleep with all these guys. Like, she didn't go, no, I don't. She was like, if that's what it takes. And then you got to think about the men in the films of no one helping the character. No one helps. I mean, the only one that did was Dean. And I thought Dean was going to turn into someone bad, and he didn't. But that's what I'm saying. Like, at every point, at any interval, like you said, Hank, he just said he, and like we just assumed it was Hank that went into room 214 because he's a predator. That's how we view him, and he talks about real hard candy and fucking like, you want to get your rocks off, do this. I have them, they pop in every day, right? It's just an association. So I mean, like, I think it's an actual, like, we get to see a big deal about the female's perspective and kind of being in these very vulnerable environments and dealing with something that no one really has there's not like a scorecard on beauty. You know what I'm saying? So you have to do whatever it takes to be viewed as the number one person.
Yeah.
I mean, there's millions of people doing podcasts right now. We're not number one. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine like if we, what it would take to get to that spot. That's not even, we're not even putting ourselves, we're sitting in the comfort of a room. It's not like we're like, she got naked in front of Jack. Like, Jack was like, get naked. I was like, no one knows what's going to happen. Like, did you go, oh, Jack's going to just put some stuff on her and take photos? Or were you like...
The first time watching, I was just like, what is this guy doing?
Yeah, that's the whole point. Like, she's vulnerable. So, I mean, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I don't think it's necessarily misogyny, though.
No.
Like, that, if it were, then Jack would have did something there and would have really looked at it. But it is interesting to me, at least, to feel that the vulnerability that she was in that environment, and know that it's not just like, that's not just like a one-time thing. Like, it's not just in a movie. Like, that happens.
Yeah.
So
it's a very ugly world when you kind of get down into the nitty-gritty of it.
That's what Winding Refn does sometimes, is he shows you some of the turned over rocks, and it's just not very...
It's not pretty.
It's not fun. It's not fun. And that's what we just want to have fun. And then, so you don't just compound it with cannibalism. That's what I'm thinking. Like, I'm already not having a great time, and it's a really good, I really liked it. Like, those are films that it's like, oh man, like you're really thinking, and we're seeing different things and different viewpoints of the world, and kind of, I've never thought about what it takes to be a female and trying to get into a certain spot, and what people would, because Jack could have easily had sex with her and been like, I don't need you anymore. I'm not going to take your photos. And Jack would have had sex and gotten off, and she'd be back to square one with nothing to show for it, besides having something that happened that she didn't want to have happen, which is very startling. So, I mean, it's a lot of, but I don't think he was having, it wasn't misogynistic. I don't think. I think it was very real world perspective about being vulnerable and in the side of things as a female, predator or prey.
Yeah, I think a lot of people take the wrong thing away from this movie, so they just kind of see it at face value, and then they don't really think about it too much after that.
Dude, I mean, or you could be like the normal white guy that watches like that shit doesn't happen. Like that, like Ariel being black, like that. She's white in the first one. Why she's got to be white in the second one?
Yeah,
I'm not like that. Women don't have to do that stuff. I mean, I don't have to, and it's just like, dude, like just completely don't even put yourself in the shoes or in that situation of what the actor is going through or what they're going through. So,
no,
but that's my take.
People don't want to think too deep about it, so they just get pissed off.
Yeah, and then they throw it back at you as a defense mechanism. Like, no, you're the idiot for making it bigger than what it should be. It's like, I don't know, man. Like,
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
But, so we can kind of move on. What would you rate this movie?
I gave this an 8 out of 10. I told, I was talking to Jasmine. We got done with it, and I was like, man, that was kind of nuts. I don't think there's anything that would have made it better or worse. So the ending could have been different. I don't think that there's an ending in my head that I would have had out that I would have been like, that would have made it a 9 out of 10. I think this movie is visually striking. The cinematography is well done. The music is on point. The lighting is fucking crazy what this dude does. And then some of the shots that he has is just remarkable. Like he's just good, but to a certain extent, because he's not good with the actors and making them. But I think the reason why this is better too is because the acting was good.
I'm giving this a 6 out of 10.
6?
Yep.
Wow. We were like exact last night in Soho versus I think we just flip flopped.
We flipped the coin, baby. That's how it is. Yeah, no, I really love the visuals. I think that it's like one of the most gorgeous movies I've seen in terms of like what's going on cinematic wise. I think that what Winding Refn wanted out of the movie, he definitely got. Just in terms of like the pacing and like how he lingers on certain shots, and then the ending itself, I really didn't connect with too much.
Yeah. No, and that happens. And that happens.
Yeah. Speaking of
what movie will you think about more? You think you'd think about this one? This will enter your mind way more than Last Night in Soho? Because I don't know if Last Night in Soho ever.
I think I will admit that like Neon Demon will like stick in my mind more.
Yeah, and that's not for bad or worse. I mean, you could watch a movie that's a 3 rated movie and just have some things that just pop out that you're like, But that's what I was curious about, and that's why I kind of was thinking, because I think this movie's a little bit more remarkable. But what was the one? Stranger. What was the movie that we watched? The Russian. The Russian movie that we watched.
Oh, Stalker.
That's what I'm trying to think about. Stalker. I was about to say.
I was like, Stranger. What are you talking about?
Stalker had a 6 out of 10, I think. But, I mean, it's still the same. I will think about that more than I think about freaking Last Night in Soho.
I love Stalker. So, speaking of demons.
Oh, yeah.
Our viewers are not demons. They're angels.
Yes.
They're beautiful cherubs that give us questions that we can answer.
Love it.
And we got some questions from the Facebook. So we only got a couple, but that's okay. A couple is better than none. And angels, nuns, religion,
Things. Yeah.
Yeah, they all tie into each other. So our first question comes from Joanne, my mom. She asks, if you could go anywhere for 1 week and bring one person you know, where would you go and who would you bring? One person that we know. So, well, Mom, since you're asking the question, I would bring you to Hawaii.
Oh.
There you go.
Does
that make you happy?
Yeah. You like that, Joanne? Huh?
Oh, man.
No.
I don't know. What would you say?
So I got kind of 2. I think one would be me and Jasmine, and I think I would want to go somewhere that's probably a little exotic. I mean, this is all inclusive, right?
Yes.
Like, we're not, like, someone just said, hey.
Someone said, you won the lottery. You get to pick where you go. You get to pick who you bring.
Right. Yeah. No, so I would do that. I think I'd go somewhere exotic, warm but not dangerous, which is kind of tough sometimes, but.
So Afghanistan's not in your round of
not
choices?
That warm. I'm like exotic, like tropical exotic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Or the cruise liner in Speed 2.
Oh,
That would be a fun one.
I would want to die on there. I'll be the guy who gets hit in the face with a golf club.
Oh, nice.
I'll be that dude. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff me in the closet for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and then find me and then almost kill me.
Yeah.
Or I'd do something with Preston. Mm-hmm. And I think I would take P probably to the Appalachian Mountains or somewhere where we could kind of do some like hiking, backpacking stuff, a little bit of man and nature. Like grab a tent and kind of, just have, I think it'd be a good father-son kind of experience to go through and say, all right, we're going to take out some of the elements of the world and just get back a little bit more to the roots. Yeah. Pardon the pun, but,
cool.
Yeah, I think that would be it. I saw that question too. And I was like, I'm just not good with traveling.
I haven't traveled very much.
Actually, a week. So if we could do a week and I have all the money in the world, I think. Preston, that's 1B. Jasmine would be 1A, and I think it would be going to all 30 ballparks in a week. Mm-hmm. Like something where if we could do it, like we catch, the 2 Chicago games on the same day, and then we could hit. Like I don't know if you could do it in a week though. Maybe knock out like the Midwest.
Yeah.
Or go East Coast, like go check out Fenway, New York, Baltimore, like in a week. Drive, do the drive, drive around. Like that'd be super fun instead of like taking a plane.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
I think I would, I'd probably want to take Megan over to Europe. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah.
I think I've always wanted to go to Europe. I've always wanted to travel there and just kind of like see the different countries, experience like the different food. It's mostly the food that I'm driven towards.
That's what I'm saying. Like you got to check it out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anthony Bourdain.
Right. Yeah. Anthony Bourdain around the world, baby.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Yeah. Pour one out. My second choice, and I'm being completely serious when I say this.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool if you and I could go to like a movie like festival sort of thing.
Oh, that would be sick.
Like Cannes or like Sundance or something. Like just any kind of cool like film festival where we can go around and like see all these upcoming movies, see a lot of like indie stuff.
Yeah.
Like just the environment and the experience. I think that'd be really neat.
I think, and I 100% agree. That'd be like cool, and then like actually, get out and see some of like the food and whatnot too. Because I'm a foodie too.
Because Cannes is in France, I think.
Really? Mm-hmm. See, the problem that I have with it though is like I just don't know if I can relate. But it would be cool if you could get out there and like people did take to our perspective on things. Because I think we definitely have a unique perspective, and I think there is a juxtaposition between that and like who we'd meet, where there'd be maybe an appreciation. But what I get nervous about is if there's 50, NWRs sitting in a room, and it's like we're trying to do this, and they're just staring at us, like obvious. And then they go they watch a film and they talk about the symbolism that's involved, and like there's literally like no words spoken, but they're like, yeah, it's obviously this is about farming, and then it's about freaking us losing control on some of these industrial prices. It's like you literally just watched a guy eat an egg.
Yeah. it's about the inflation rates of the U.S. economy and the sort of struggle that mothers have when it comes to like getting maternity leave. And it's like, no, you just watched a movie where like a guy snorted liquid chicken nugget. Like
that's what I'm saying. Like, how do you pick up on that? Like, where does that, and then we're the assholes.
Right.
So that's why I would be nervous about that.
I'd be intimidated.
We definitely would have to go in there, but like we'd have to try to, so I don't know, but it would probably be, that would be sick. Cause then what you could do is if you go to that and then we set up the podcast in the room. So after every day, like, we'd hop on there for an hour, talk about it, like where we went to eat, what movies we saw, who we ran into.
Just like what France is like.
Yeah.
Like the type of celebrities that we spotted or like maybe ran into.
Yeah.
Because like that's a cool thing with Cannes too, is that like you literally could like run into like the directors or like some of the main actors in movies. Like
I would just some of it. I would just be like, hey man, like don't give me your fucking actors. Like, do you think that movie was like what did it represent to you, or you just thought it was a piece of shit? Like Elle Fanning, like she has to give you this whole spiel on it, but it's like, hey. Like, do you think it was like it intended to be that way? And have her be like, oh God, yes. Or like, oh God, no. Can you believe that they had, like that's what I'd want to hear.
Right. Just like the completely candid, like, how do you feel about this?
Like what, you don't have to make art and then give me a I made art answer.
Yeah.
Like give me the, like, some people don't agree with the Van Goghs.
I think sometimes you can tell too when actors try to do that.
Yeah.
Or like sometimes when actors are honest about it, like a lot of the actors from Game of Thrones, when that last season was going on, people were asking them like, so what can we expect from these last episodes? And a lot of the actors would kind of cringe up and they'd be like, it's the best. Like they're just trying to put on a face,
Yeah.
And you can clearly tell that's like, oh no, that's not a good sign at all. So yeah, that'd be an interesting aspect of it for sure. I just think it'd be really cool. Just any like big film festival, really. Because like not only that, but they're also hard to get into. So if I had a choice in the matter, I definitely would take it. Because you have to have like kind of like critic credentials and like all this stuff. Like if you weren't involved in the movie that's in it, you have to be like a part of like this sort of press screening process, I guess.
Oh, we could go through. Let's just make a film and get it into cans.
Oh yeah, just like that. We'll do that.
That's what one of the guy that made the beta test and the Wolf of Snow Hollow. I think he made he made a film. Oh my God, from what I can remember, and I hope it's the right set of guys, because there was a group of guys that wanted to get into cans, and so they actually just made a film to get in there and then bash it.
Oh really?
Yeah, because they don't agree with what can. Some of them are like let's not do this. This is so 1950s.
Yeah. Like
we make art, but we don't have to sit here and smoke the cigarette, out of the thing, so we don't get it on our hand wearing our white glove. Like we can be genuine about what we say, and we can be candid. Like I think, so I think I'm pretty sure that happened.
There's definitely like a culture around it too. That's like kind of like, oh, we're filmmakers, like kind of the artiste sort of crowd that I think would be like a little bit to deal with. But I don't know. It'd be interesting either way.
Right.
I think we would definitely get something out of it.
Agreed.
Our next question, set of questions, I should say, comes from Justin, good friend of the pod.
Jay Hall. Yeah, no. Jay Hall, good friend of the pod.
Yes, Jay Hall, good friend of the pod, has a set of questions for us. His first one is, if you could only watch one TV series for the rest of your life, what would your lifelong binge be? It's hard to not say Breaking Bad, because that is my favorite show of all time, and I am currently rewatching it right now, like for the 5th time, and still enjoying it, still getting new things out of it, still appreciating it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the only other TV show that I think I could say is Dark, because that show I think is made to be rewatched.
The German time travel show?
Because, well, have you seen it?
Mm-hmm. I watched the first season when it came out, and then they released the second season. I think it was 2 years later, 2 or 3. It was enough time for like I didn't catch up with it, and
I think that whole show is very detailed. There's a lot of things that you can look for and explore upon rewatches, and sort of maybe like connect different things to, like, without giving too much away about the show. It's a lot of things connecting in like this web of like this timeline, and like these different sort of, I don't want to say too much about it, but I feel like there's a lot you could do to like get out of it.
You're talking like purgatory here. Like you're in purgatory, and like you get like one DVD box collection. You're going Breaking Bad or Dark.
Well, I mean, what's a show? I'm thinking of like a show, like what's the most I can get out of a show?
Yeah, but like,
or what's a show that I can get the most out of? And I think Breaking Bad and Dark are pretty decent choices, in terms of like how much can I get out of Dark, in terms of like, oh, I can try to figure some things out, like I can try to connect these different things.
Yeah, but like let's say on the 3rd one you got it all down. Like now it's just
I don't think I would.
Okay, but I'm saying like, all right, after the 5th one, 10th one, like you're rewatching it once a year. I mean, like you can't.
It's also just like a good TV show.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm blown away that you're going with Dark, with this German time travel show with everything else out there. Like I'm like Breaking Bad, I think is what I go with. Or I was thinking about The Wire, but The Wire's so heavy. I don't know if I could rewatch The Wire. I love The Wire, and I think there'd be enough. But like it's just.
Well, I'm not going to go with, because I haven't watched that many TV shows either. So I'm not going to go with a TV show that I haven't seen.
Well, I know.
Because like I could watch it and think it's total shit, and then I'd have to be stuck with it for the rest of my life.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like I'm going with it's either Breaking Bad or probably Archer. Archer's funny enough for me, and there's a lot of quippy, I think, quips in it that like you can look like references that you don't necessarily get that you can look up, but it's fun and it's easy to go down, and it's 30 minutes, so it's not like if I just need to throw something on real quick,
Yeah.
Like Dark just seems a little. You're rewatching it for the 5th or 6th time, and it's like I think you're at that point where like everything that's going on, so now you're just reading. I mean, hey, you know what? I'm not here to judge.
I'll say Always Sunny, I think, would be a good pick.
Oh yeah,
because there's also a lot of that show.
Yeah. Like Seinfeld's probably an easy one that if you like, I don't know if you ever watched Seinfeld, but Seinfeld would be
I've seen, I think, most of the episodes.
I think sitcoms are kind of the easiest one to be in because you can also take some abstract thoughts about like what's going on or apply some theories to the situations if you want.
Yeah, and I think that's part of why I picked Dark too, is there was a lot to interpret there also.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess
you're really not liking my Dark answer.
To me, that is like really, it's very indie. I'll just say that. Very hipster pick.
Have you met me?
Yeah, I know, but I'm like,
do you know who I am?
Listen, man. I mean, everyone, I'm like indie hipster. Like, I think there is a point though where it's like you rest of your life, like, just think about it real quick.
Well, having seen the whole show, I think there's a lot to get out of it too. Like. In terms of
I'm not saying there's not, but dude, I'm saying you're 52 and you're putting it back on. Like,
listen, if you've met my dad, he likes to rewatch a lot of shit. So I'm guaranteed to have some of that passed down to me.
I think so, but I think like the guarantee, for me, it's like always like Curb Your Enthusiasm, Always Sunny, Parks and Rec. Like the sitcoms are like a lot of rewatchability because of the scenarios that they're in, and it's very relatable. And if you wanted to, you could probably come up with your own theories if you've seen it enough to where you could create your own timelines about like what's going on in the show and what the characters are doing. Whereas like with Dark, it's pretty much factual. So like once you get your spider web, like it'd be like Primer. Like if you wanted to, but that also seems like insane to me now because it's like you're going to watch Primer for the rest of your life trying to figure out compounding events on the timeline. Like that would be, it just doesn't sound something that it would be fun. Like I feel like you'd probably go insane after like 15 years.
Maybe that's what I want.
Could be.
I want to go insane so I don't have to think about how I only have to watch one TV show for the rest of my life.
That's what I'm saying. A teacher on, I'd be curious. I wish there's sometimes where like if you made like comments like that, like if I was like, oh, one TV show, yeah, like let me watch. I'm trying to think of something that's just like really outlandish, And not saying Dark's good. Like I've seen, there's 2 or 3 seasons of it, right?
There's 3 seasons,
yeah,
and it's a complete show. Like it has an ending.
It's like so there are 3 seasons of it.
Yep,
and it's done.
It's done.
Okay. Because I watched the first one and I was excited about season 2 coming out and I never got into it. So I'm not saying it's like because I've seen it. It's curious, but like, all right, like let's throw you into the scenario. I want to see it played out. Like if it ever fizzles out, like it just registers timelines like on a fax machine, just prints paper, and it's just like every situation that happens, and then like it ends. It says, you're 2048, April 16th, Kyle picks up the box and like lights it on fire, or like just something where it's like, oh, that's when it ended. Like it'd be kind of interesting. Like,
it would be
like you get to watch this show for the rest of your life. How long do you think you could watch it for? Right. Like, and then like, oh, I'm gonna pick The Wire. And it's like it says like 2032. Like that's when you just
that's when you just
celibate
get
from
burnt
TV.
out of it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm also interpreting the question as it only pertains to TV shows. So I could I could still watch movies, like whichever movies. I could still do whatever I wanted. It's just if I wanted to watch any TV show, it would have to be like that one specific one.
Right.
So, and I don't watch much TV anyway.
Right.
Like, except for rewatching Breaking Bad a lot.
I feel like this is like an unfair question to you because you probably got like 6 shows under your palette.
I mean, it's not much, I will admit.
Yeah,
it's like Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, Dark, like I'm Always Sunny, The Office, kind of. Like I'm struggling to get 4 right now.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's just kind of, you don't have much of an options to what you're picking off of. So, it's like, all right, so let's take Breaking Bad out. You got 3 of those. So I could see, I think Always Sunny, but
Avatar: Last Airbender.
Okay.
That'd be a good one, I think.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Dragon Ball Z. I could do Dragon Ball Z probably.
Dragon Ball Z would be easy for you because there's a lot of it, isn't there?
Oh my God, there's just so much of it. And actually just to sit down and then I could watch 1 episode a day. There's probably like 300 episodes. Like I could 1 episode a day, I could fill out a year.
Yeah. You'd be set.
Yeah. And it's like I get to the very end of it and I'm just sitting there weeping on New Year's Eve. And then I'm like, oh, I could just put on the first episode again tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And then just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd just be set. I don't know. I like my choices.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if they're wrong, you're good.
Even if I'm a fucking idiot. The last question that we have from Justin, good friend of the pod, J Hall.
Yeah.
Is after a year and 27 episodes, what have been some unforeseen challenges about the podcast, and what have been some unexpected positives that have come from it? Audio.
Unforeseen challenges?
Didn't think...
Or positives. It could go both ways.
Well, audio is definitely a challenge. Not as much, but there have definitely been some instances where I've had to edit the podcast quite a bit because the audio is screwed up in some way. Like the episode that we had with Sam, we just had a third mic where the thing that connected the microphone to the mixer, anytime you bumped it, it made this horrible like crackling sound that we would all have to suffer through. And even if you touched it a little bit, which I mean is hard to do when you're sitting in a chair and the mic is like right in front of your face.
Right.
So that has been kind of an unforeseen challenge a little bit.
So editing.
So yeah, like a lot of it for me is just like the editing stuff, just putting it together. Like sometimes it's like the audio will interfere with something so much that I'll basically just have to cut an entire sentence out to make the rest of the podcast make sense. Mm-hmm. But that hasn't been super often. And for the most part, I'm able to just listen through to it and not have to worry about cutting too much stuff out. So,
yeah.
I don't know. What would you say?
Unforeseen challenges? Probably just like fitting in time to watch the movies. Mm-hmm. I think kind of when it comes down to The Wire or just, not the show. I think that's been a little tricky of just trying to like, all right, like the Oscar.
Yes.
When it was like, all right, we're going to watch all these things. And we got,
we got 3 weeks to do it.
Well, we had, 3 weeks to watch 10 films, so that's one every 2 days.
Pretty much.
I mean, and it's like, all right, so if it's one every 2 days, you don't do it the one day, the next day you can't plan anything. Like you have to, you're gonna watch a film.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just been tricky. So I think that's been about it. And then it's not like in a bad thing. It's just sometimes it can like this week. I was just back. It was last night in Soho, last night in the Neon Demon today, just because with football going on and all that stuff. But they're fun challenges though.
Yeah,
I would say, and I don't know if it unforeseen. I couldn't say unforeseen. I knew it would be challenging to do this. Actually, I take that back. When you say, "Hey, you're gonna watch 2 movies and you got 3 weeks to do it," you're like, "Oh yeah, that's easy enough." Mm-hmm. But then it's like
you don't realize how much life gets in the way of like you're watching stuff. Because I definitely have that feeling too sometimes, where it's like, oh, in 2 days we're recording the podcast and I haven't watched either film that we're gonna talk about.
Yeah.
And kind of like this episode, like I watched Last Night in Soho yesterday and I watched Neon Demon today. Mm-hmm. I think you did the same thing. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's like life just gets in the way and we have a lot of responsibilities. Like we have jobs, we have people to socialize with, look after. I mean, you have a son. So,
I mean, just a bunch of shit goes on.
It's just kind of like, balancing this with our lives outside of this.
Yeah. And making sure that we have an opinion about the film that we watch.
Yeah.
That's another, like, when you watch it, you can't just have it on in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're going to sit down and watch it, and you have to actually soak it in, let it marinate, and then, try to have some thoughts on it. So,
yeah, I think part of the challenge too is just like you said, finding the right, like how you feel about a movie sometimes isn't obvious right away. Mm-hmm. At least not for me. Like sometimes when I watch a movie, it takes me a couple days to form my complete opinion. Sometimes I watch it and I formulate that opinion while I'm recording the podcast, and I'm kind of getting my feelings out there and sort of shaping it as we're having the conversation.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that happens. I try to make it so that I have a concrete feeling about it before we record. And that's the case for the most of it, but sometimes it's not as black and white.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the positives, I don't know. The positives actually are just being able to talk to people about films, like everyone that listens to it. Jay Hall, we've gotten more conversations. We've watched some movies together. Mm-hmm. I used to live in this world where, like at Sam's Club, dude, like we just go and it's like we'd start talking, but you hadn't seen, like a lot of the films that I had seen. And it's kind of like I don't know the person that I'm talking to about this, because we could easily talk about the Neon Demon and how, a pyramid looks like a womb and she's being rebirthed into, narcissistic with her cognition. Mm-hmm. Or I just say, yeah, the colors were really nice and the music popped.
Yeah.
Like there's two different conversations that I'm going to have with someone about that because of how I interpret film and how I see it. Sometimes you get really abstract thoughts. And, I think a positive out of it is being able to talk to people and have them actually lay a little bit more onto me too, because they probably go, oh, Mac knows a little bit more about it than what we've ever talked about, because it's always been surface level and maybe neither one of us wanted to, so that's been really a pleasant thing, being able to talk about it with people. Mm-hmm. And now it's like I really don't give a shit, because like I'll just tell you pretty much going to tell you what I think about it, because you're going to hear it one way or another. Yeah. If I surface level you in a conversation and I drop it down when we get into the pod, like you're gonna be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like give me something, man.
Yeah, like don't treat me like a mouth breather. Like talk to me like you fucking talk on that pod, god damn it. Like you talk to Kyle. So that's how I do it. And then now it's pretty much either people stay around and talk, or they get up and they just go, yeah, no, that's cool. And they get up and they go somewhere else. Right. So it's like it really has helped out to cut out some of the bullshit when we talk about movies.
I think so. And along those same lines, it's like this podcast. And I was already wanting to, be a little more critical minded when it comes to talking about films. But this podcast has really helped me in terms of like critically thinking about a film and all the different aspects of it, and like what works, what doesn't, what I took out of it, like what I interpreted it as. Mm-hmm. And I think that this has helped me have an avenue for that sort of thinking. And it has made it a more consistent thing in my life. And also, it's just exposed me to more movies that I might not have even ever watched before doing this podcast. Like, I mean, we talk about a lot of like, big budget, like kind of theater movies, but there's also movies that are older that we've talked about, like Stalker, or movies that, I never even knew existed or heard of that have come from another country, like Chopper. Yeah. Like, I think that there is a lot of value in that. We can give each other films to watch that we might not have never even, had in front of us in any point of our life. And I think that is a really cool aspect of it.
Yes. We're getting cultured, bitch.
Yeah. Absolutely. Critical thinking, baby.
Yeah.
College level education.
Let's go.
It also, it has tricked people into thinking that I'm smarter than I actually am.
It's a nice perk. Mm-hmm. It's really nice when you get like, it's kind of, it was like Neon Demon-esque, but you get poked in the chest a little bit, and then you start dropping down like a little bit bigger concepts, or like how you perceive the film. Yeah. And watch people cower. Yeah. And you're like, hey, get the fuck out of my face with that. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not gonna have you come up here and start hitting me with stuff like. Mm-hmm. this is how I see it. And if you're going to fucking come at me like that, but I haven't really had anyone that's just like, I'm going to challenge you on film. And because honestly, too, I think in this this infinite space of nothingness, like I could probably care less if someone wanted to say, I know more about a movie than you. Cause I'm like, great. Like if you're getting paid for it, awesome. And if you're not, I'm glad that you're that passionate about it.
You went a little Vincent on me there for a second. This endless space of nothingness.
Oh yeah. A
little bit of Tom Cruise silver hair going on there.
Well, I mean, we don't need to, I don't, the other point of the pod is too that and I read my bio recently on the website, and I forgot how much fun I had with it, but I was like, because I still feel that way. It's a nice avenue to talk about movies, and, you get into you can get anywhere with anyone, and if you've both seen a film, you're gonna have two different perceptions on it, and if both people feel comfortable about talking like what they saw, it opens up dialogue and it's a nice conversation.
Yeah,
so
it's helped me. It's also helped me just be more confident in my opinions about things.
Yeah,
and just sort of like, even if someone has an opposing view on a movie, I can respectfully like disagree with it and tell them why I disagree with it, but
also respect their like why they
Yeah, I can understand why they would or wouldn't like a movie that I feel the opposite on.
Yep. It's fun.
Yeah, I think it's really healthy in that way too. This podcast is making me a better person.
You're growing, Kyle. You're really doing it.
I am a real boy. I'm going to recommend the shitty Pinocchio movie voiced by Pauly Shore next episode.
That's all right. I have a fun recommendation. So.
Speaking of which, you get to make a film pick recommendation.
Okay, so I'm doing this for my number one fan. I think I want to package it together, so I'll see what you have to say. I have not seen either of these films. One is in theaters.
Ooh, double feature.
Yeah, one is. The other one, it's a sequel.
Okay.
So
you said one's in theaters.
Yeah. So I went on. I got the cinema because I have a VIP card. I don't have a VIP card, but I have the card.
Yeah.
So I can get the cinema app and logged into it, and I can get deals and whatnot. They kind of.
Yeah.
I have a. I'm gonna. Me and Jasmine are gonna go see this film at some point.
Oh, nice.
But I have a BOGO for the Orphan 2.
Oh my God!
So I think we should do the Orphan and then the Orphan 2.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I didn't expect this at fucking all.
I didn't. I knew that you wouldn't.
Oh my God,
dude! Like we've been talking about it, and you gotta see the Orphan. You gotta see this film. You gotta. Oh my God, Orphan 2 came out. We gotta go see it. And I'm like,
wow.
I was like, well, hey, listen, I love you. So if you want to see it, we'll see it.
Okay.
I'm willing to do that because it's really not my cup of tea. But
all right.
I'm sure that there's something interesting on it. But then when I got the BOGO, I was like. She's like, we're going to see it. You should talk about it. I was like, yeah, that would. And I haven't seen the first one. So these are two films that I'm going to have.
Yeah, me too. I haven't seen either of them.
And it's leading into Halloween. So we get a little bit of some of the horror out of there. If we don't get it on.
That's a fun pick.
Yeah, I think we'll actually have it'll be a fun time.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
If you guys don't want to be spoiled for The Orphan or The Orphan 2, which is in theaters currently.
Yeah.
Be sure to watch those movies before episode 29. Appreciate you guys listening. You can check us out on our website, www.neoncrewpodcast.com. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and various social medias. If you search us up, find us there, give us a follow. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Gonna try to make more clips. I put out a new one not too long ago about our talk on At Eternity's Gate, which has gotten a decent amount of views.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's
a fun one.
It had a little uptick after a few days of being on the channel, so I was really happy about that. And I think it's a good conversation, so be sure to check that out also. Appreciate you guys. Mac, do you have anything you want to say before we sign off?
As always, everyone, as you stare out into the, what did I say?
The eternal spinning ball of nothingness.
Yeah, the infinity of space and time just coming at you. Just always remember, WWTHD.
Bye, everyone.